Ah! The black-faced friar with thick lips just had time to exclaim. He felt that he had lost control and could not move. When he was shocked, Xianrun got up and took a few pictures. Then he flew into the magic cave with this man. Yi Tian's magic power hits the cave, and the cave becomes smaller and smaller. He brings it into Shumi commandment. Then, Yi Tian disappeared from the original place again and disappeared. Everything here was calm, as if there had never been a short fight. A few hours later, in a deep underground place thousands of miles away from where Yi Tian disappeared, Yi Tian took out the magic weapon cave again and entered it. Master! Xianrun was sitting with his knees crossed. Seeing Yi Tian come in, he got up in a hurry. He was always respectful and cautious. He couldn't see that the monk who changed the spirit was once the head of the branch of the Xian family. Yi Tian glanced at him, his face was like earth, and he was sitting in a corner of the magic weapon cave. The monk of Yuanyingjing, who couldn't move, asked, "What's the origin of this man? If I return to my master, I have searched the soul of this man. I already know that he is a son of the Hu family in Heiyun City. His name is Hu Dongsheng." Xianrun returned immediately. Black Cloud City Hu family? Yi Tian had a funny smile on his lips. He thought he was a monk in Zhangyang Palace, but he didn't expect that he was a member of the Hu family. It seems that things have become more interesting. The Hu family has so many skills that they can find their own trace. After a little pondering, Yi Tian asked curiously, "How can this person find my whereabouts when it comes to things related to me?" Report back to the master. This matter starts from a sect called Taiyimen. The people of Taiyimen suspect that Duan Feishui and Duanjian Villa was rescued because of the power behind the master, so they want to capture the master and search for the soul to find out the truth. When the master left Duanjian Villa, the people of Taiyimen didn't doubt the master, but in Duanjian Villa, the Dan cutting method used by Tianaimen was broken by Duan's family. The people of Taiyimen speculated that an outsider might have mentioned this matter to Duanjian Villa, but in the short time when Duan Feishui came back to the villa, he only contacted the outsider, the master, which aroused their suspicion. Xianrun thought in an orderly way and said, "This is what the monk Yuanyingjing of the Hu family told Taiyimen, so the Taiyimen came back from Duanjian Villa to arrest their master." However, they never found the owner's whereabouts. Later, the master had a conflict with the people of Zhangyang Palace in Meng'an City, which attracted Taiyi's attention and sent people to search for the master. Unfortunately, he happened to be met by this friar named Hu Dongsheng. That's what happened. After hearing Xianrun finish, Yi Tian suddenly realized that it was no wonder that after he left the Broken Sword Villa, he saw those Tianaimen flying away from the sky in order to trace his whereabouts. This is very good. As soon as I came to Taimen Lingyu, I had a feud with 2 of the 8 sections. Both Taiyi sect and Zhangyang Palace are searching for me. It seems that I have to be more careful in the future. Thinking about this, Yi Tian continued to ask, "Can you find the information about the space passage to the Holy Spirit realm?" Back to the master, the old slave searched carefully. There was no news about this. A monk in Yuanyingjing didn't know such a thing. It seems that this matter should be very secret. Xianrun returned respectfully. What else is valuable news? Although Yi Tian is a little disappointed, he nods slightly and asks. Hearing Yi Tian's question, Xianrun's face rarely showed a smile. Back to the master, there are really useful news for the master. I think there are 2 news that are very useful for the master. Well, one by one. Seeing Xianrun's appearance, Yi Tian knew that it must not be an ordinary thing, otherwise Xianrun would not have such an excited expression in the later stage of the spirit state, so he sat on the futon with his knees crossed and waited for the following. The first news is that around March, there will be a place called Tsangming Holy Land, also known as Tsangming Kingdom, about to open. This secret place is opened only once every 1,000 years. There are 2 things that are very useful to the monk's mind. Xianrun said here. Yi Tian waved his hand and said, "I already know about this matter. Let's continue to talk about the next news." Yi Tian naturally knows the news, and it may be more detailed than what Xianrun got from soul searching. Although he is a little disappointed, he has some expectations in his heart. After all, the news that can be compared between Xianrun and Kangmingji is certainly not a small matter. Interrupted by Yi Tian, Xianran doesn't change his expression at all. Like a machine without emotion, he immediately changes the topic. The next news is about Zhengyang Palace. The main skill practiced by this force is fire. There is a very magical flame in Zhengyang Palace, which is called Zhengyang Holy Fire. Maybe this name was created by Zhengyang Palace itself. Hu Dongxing doesn't know what the flame is. But that kind of flame is the treasure of Zhengyang Palace, which has a lot of benefits to improve the fire attribute. Only the gifted disciples of Zhengyang Palace can have the qualification to comprehend by the flame of Zhengyang once every 10 years, and each time is only 3 days. I know that the master cultivates the idea of Sui Wangguan and the fire attribute skill. I think this kind of holy fire is also very useful to the master. The flame of Zhengyang? Yi Tian's eyes show the color of pondering. The news is not mentioned in the jade slips given to him by Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Even from the memory of Chu Yutian, there is no impression. It seems that this matter is not well known. Although the holy fire is good, it's the strictness of blocking the other party's information. The location of the holy fire must be more secret, and there must be many mechanisms. Yi Tian just wants to listen to it. If he doesn't have a good chance, does he have the idea to hit the holy fire? After all, the most urgent task is to return to the Earth Star. To return to the Earth Star, he needs to find the space channel leading to the Holy Spirit realm, and he still thinks about Sangming realm. If he can't find the space channel for a while, and Sangming realm has been opened, he doesn't mind getting some flowers of Hades and Spirit Yuan inside. After all, compared with one's own cultivation state, the most important thing is to enhance the power of the mind. Don't kill this man first, and take care of him in the cave for the time being. Otherwise, his original name will be broken, which will attract the attention of the Hu family and even Tai. We can't expose too much strength yet. Yi Tian sat on the futon and pondered for a moment, then got up and said, "Yes, master, if there is any danger, please call the old slave out at any time." Xianran see Yi Tian to go, immediately said, "If you practice inside, you will be summoned when you need to. After a while, the situation outside will be more stable. I will refine some pills to improve your function and increase your longevity." Yi Tian nodded slightly, looked at Xianran and said, then his figure disappeared from the magic weapon cave. "Thank you for your love." Although Yi Tian has disappeared, Xianran still looks happy and kneels down towards the gate of the magic cave. In addition to the cave, Yi Tian put away the magic weapon cave, then went out of the underground and returned to the ground. After using a little mana to change his appearance, he took out the top magic weapon flying sword again and flew towards Yihu City. He controlled the speed, so that he was no different from the ordinary monks and longmen. For him, this speed was equivalent to a leisurely sightseeing. About 800 or 900 miles away, Yi Tian deflected an angle and changed his flight direction. In front of him, there was an animal cart flying fast. The one who pulled the cart was a golden mongrel with a single horn on his head. It was about 4 levels of state, and its speed was faster than that of ordinary monks in Jindan state. Yi Tian doesn't want to be a stranger to him. Although he is good, he has more than 1,005 level monsters in his hand. None of them can be compared with the current one. However, although he didn't want to be fussy, he didn't want to. The beast car pulled by the unicorn golden retriever suddenly changed its direction and intercepted towards Yi Tian. Is it someone from Taiyimen? Or people from Zhenyang Palace? Yi Tian's eyes coagulated and stopped in the air. Before the chariot pulled by the one-horned golden mongrel came near, a figure flew out of the car and came to Yi Tian. Monk of Jindanjing Yi Tian takes a look at this man with no change in his expression. He is dressed in gorgeous clothes, looks young, and combs his hair carefully. Different from other friars, others are either unarmed, and the latter are holding magic weapons, which is basically the same. But this man is holding an open exquisite folding fan in his hand. The strong wind blows in the sky, but the fan in his hand is gently shaking, as if it is hot. Under the induction of Yi Tian, it is clear at a glance, about the middle stage of Jindan realm. In the distance, the animal cart driven by the golden-haired animal stopped and suspended in the air. Behind the shaft, a middle-aged man was sitting on his knees. He was dressed in plain black, which seemed to be a servant's dress. However, the realm of this driver is better than that of the young people in Huafu, and has reached the late realm of Jindan realm. Yi Tian has already seen the situation of the young man in gorgeous clothes on the animal cart and in front of him, but he doesn't say anything. He just steps on the flying sword, swings his skirt and looks at each other slightly. Where are you a friar, so you have no manners, and you don't get a gift when you see the elder? The young man looked at Yi Tian, shook the fan's skin and said with a smile. He said that Yi Tian had no manners, but his behavior was rather rude. Ha, if you just want to show off, you can go away. The leaf day lip spreads a silk sneer, don't give the slightest bit of feeling ground to say. Boy, you have a lot of guts. How dare you talk to Long like this? I'm afraid you don't know who Long Outyan is, do you? The young man's lips twitched slightly, his eyes shot two fierce lights, slapped the fan in his hand and closed it together. Long Outyan? You know what? This is a very dog than the name. Usually such a name, in the novel live less than 3 chapters. It's bad luck for you to meet me today. Yi Tian said, his body moved, but he didn't know how to do it. He slapped his palm on the young man's face. The young man did not expect that Yi Tian did not agree with each other. There was no place at all. With a loud slap in the face, he staggered a few steps and almost fell down. How dare you hit me? Are you tired of living? The young man in Huafu was so angry that he didn't have time to think about how Yi Tian, who had only the cultivation of Longmen realm, could beat himself without evasion. He was so angry that a golden short gun appeared out of thin air in his hand. A sound burst out of his hand and shot at Yi Tian's chest. The two sides were very close, and the young man in Huafu suddenly shot again. After all, it was the cultivation of Jindan realm. This shot was also very fierce. If the ordinary monk in Longmen realm was suddenly attacked by this attack, he would not die and would be seriously injured. It's a pity that he met Yi Tian, who killed a monk in the golden elixir realm like searching for something. With a flash of cold light in Yi Tian's eyes, his mana burst out. With a wave of golden gun magic weapon coming from his right hand, the golden gun suddenly flew away like a dead tree. But Yi Tian doesn't see how to move. He has come to the young man in Huafu. He claps his hand on the man's dantian, and then his body moves back. Bold. Until this time, the voice of the friar who was driving came over, and then a dark shadow came, and a flying sword flashed to Yi Tian. When the flying sword just cut into Yi Tian suddenly lost his sight. Almost at the same time, a fierce flying sword with red, black and white light appeared out of thin air. A flash of light flickered. Even Yi Tian couldn't see the action of the fierce flying sword carefully. The friar of the golden elixir in black turned into a pile of broken meat and scattered down. Then, the fierce soldier's flying sword flashed again, and it was actually cutting towards the golden fur. The golden fur's realm was not high, and it was bound by the car. It could not escape the fierce soldier's flying sword controlled by the soul of Xian Longsword. A piece of sword light flashed, and the one-horned golden mongoose had already fallen to the ground with the whole car. Yi Tianli didn't pay attention to the fierce soldier's flying sword. He made a gesture. A magic force rolled up the young man in gorgeous clothes who also fell down, and then he fell to the ground. This gorgeous young man named Long Outyan was broken in Yi Tian's palm and his cultivation was abandoned. If Yi Tian hadn't rolled him up, he would have fallen to the ground and become a puddle of meat. To the ground, Yi Tian gesture move, put away the fierce sword, followed by a palm has been pressed to the top of the head of the dragon Outyan. More than 10 minutes later, Yi Tian's palms vomit, and Long Outyan's head is smashed. However, Yi Tian's body has disappeared from the original place, leaving 3 incomplete bodies, including human and animal. Even Yi Tian didn't receive the 2 men's Shumi precepts, so he left the place. In soul searching, I know that this dragon Outyan is really his real name. He is the legitimate son of the dragon family in the Wild Tiger City. He often bullies men and women and does all kinds of bad things. This time, he secretly runs out of the family and goes to Mengan City to have a tryst with a woman. When he sees that he is stepping on the top magic weapon Fei Jin and deceiving himself, he has the heart of snatching. That's why there's such a fight. The friar in black, however, is the close companion of Long Outyan. This time, he has the right to act as a coachman. The strength of the dragon family is not so strong. There are no great friars in Yupu realm, and even there are only 3 monks in Huashan realm. It's not a big family, and its strength is not so strong. Yi Tianlu, who is invisible in the flight, does not change his journey. Instead, he changes his appearance and continues to go in the direction of Yihu City. This time, Yi Tian still only flew a few hundred miles away, then his body stopped. In a flash, Dun Tianxua appeared out of thin air and quickly enlarged. He drew a virtual shadow in the air and disappeared in the sky. After more than 10 breaths, Dun Tianxua had come to a forest. At this time, in the woods, the mana roared, and the 2 groups were fighting fiercely. One of them is a dozen monks who don't know the origin, while the other is Najiak, a barbarian youth Yi Tian met in Mengan City. At this time, the barbarian side was in danger. The other side's more than a dozen friars were at the top of the golden elixir. They were extremely fierce, and they swore not to put Naji and others to death. 5 of the 8 barbarian youths were injured, and they were supported by their height and strong fighting power. However, under the fierce attack of more than a dozen Terran friars, they would not last long. The arrival of Yi Tian, these people have naturally found out, but the fight to this extent, both sides are not taking into account Yi Tian, still you come and I go fighting. However, a middle-aged friar yelled at Yi Tian on Dun Tianxua, Zhengyang Palace is here to end the feud with the barbarians, and other people are avoiding. Zhengyang Palace? At first, he didn't know the origin of the other party. When he heard the other party's identity, Yi Tian gave a cold smile. It's an old friend of Zhengyang Palace. With these words, a black cloud swarmed up from Yi Tian and flew towards the dozen friars. It's you? Withdraw. The middle-aged monk who just talked saw a large black figure with a buzzing sound, suddenly exclaimed. He seemed to recognize Yi Tian, who had changed his appearance. He could not care to kill the young barbarians anymore, and took the lead in flying away. The other 10 friars seemed to know the power of the ant, so they changed their bodies and fled in different directions. Large tracts of clematis were immediately divided into more than 10 groups, and each group chased one of them crazily. Almost a moment later, they chased and killed their own targets, and then a series of screams came from different directions. Brother Yi Tian, is that you? Seeing the familiar clematis, Naji, gasping for breath, wiped the blood on his face and asked aloud. Naji, yes, it's me. You go first, and I'll come to you after I kill these scum of Zhengyang Palace. Yi Tian slightly restored his true colors. No, we can't go. You come to save us. We can't escape by ourselves. Naji is not such a person. The barbarians don't have such a reason. Who knows, Naji is a neck to say aloud. Yi Tiandeu, take back your spirit bug. You've bitten the wrong person. We won't go to Zhengyang Palace. Just at this time, suddenly a friar who was besieged by the wire ant called out. It's you who say it's Zhengyang Palace, it's you who say it's not Zhengyang Palace, it seems you have a big mouth, right? With a sneer on his lips, Yi Tian looks at the monks who are besieged by thousands of clematis. He doesn't mean to call them back. This time, he drives more clematis than last time. Yi Dao Yu. Put away your spirit insects first. We are not from Zhengyang Palace. We are disciples of Xiu Yuan sect. We punish these barbarians because we don't resent their tyranny on the land of the human race. As for why we call ourselves the people of Zhengyang Palace, it's just that we have always kept a low profile and don't like to take credit. The friar began to argue loudly as he kept beating the wire ants on his body. Nonsense, how can we barbarians be overbearing? You ambush us here, kill us when you see us, and now you are still sophisticating? When the man just said that, the blue tendons on the neck of the tall and strong Najiak immediately stretched up, and even his eyes were a little red. He yelled that he was going to rush towards the man with a big stick. It was really urgent to see the situation. Not only him, but also the other barbarian youths were also angry, and they all wanted to rush up. Even a grumpy barbarian youth smashed his big stick at the man like a brick. Don't do it. If he is here, he will do justice for you. Seeing the expression of the barbarians and the guilty look of the friar, Yi Tian can immediately tell who is telling the truth and who is lying. Yi Tian naturally knew the existence of Zuyuanjiu. Before he entered the Taiman spiritual realm, he knew the names of the 8 sects in this spiritual realm, and Zuyuanjiu was one of them. Among the 8 sects of Zhangyang Palace, Tai sect, Dikuan sect, Shouyuan sect, Jinwu sect, Liwa sect, Qingyun sect and Baji sect, Shouyuan sect is very powerful. How can such a clan be counseled like this? Confessed without torture? And also admitted that he was posing as Zhangyang Palace? Are you not afraid of causing conflicts between the two families and affecting their relations? Yi Tian is puzzled in his heart, and then moves to the friar who has been bitten by the iron thread ant. He claps his hand at his dantian. When the man saw Yi Tian's palm coming over, his eyes flashed a glow of joy. He also thought about how to kill Yi Tian, and then the attack of Taisian ants was naturally relieved. It was just that Yi Tian had no chance to fight with the barbarians. Now it was a good time to start. He didn't care about the gnawing pain of clematis in his body, so he slapped Yi Tian with a violent hand. Although he did his best, he was extremely fierce and had a strong attack on Yi Tian. Yi Tian's eyes are cold, and his body suddenly retreats. In a flash, he is out of the attack range of the other party. He stands in the distance with his hands down, and his face coldly urges the Iron Line ants to attack. Originally, he just wanted to control the other party to search for souls, to see if the other party was really a disciple of Shouyuan sect, and then deal with it. But the other party suddenly under cruel hand, Leaf Day nature won't again polite. Seeing that Yi Tian easily evaded his attack with all his strength, the friar knew that it was absolutely impossible to sneak attack again. He immediately gave up his thought and beat the Iron Line ants that had touched his body, while he staggered away from the distance. Yi Tian glances at the battlefield. Within a radius of more than 10 miles, more than 10 monks of the other party are gradually losing their fighting power under the siege of swarms of Taisian ants. Yi Tian's heart is fixed, and his body is in a flash to chase the escaped monk. In a moment, the Iron Line ant has destroyed the monk's elixir field. When Yi Tian arrives, he has lost the ability to transfer his mana and falls down from the sky to the ground. Yi Tian turned into a virtual shadow, clasped the friar's shoulder and took him to the ground. Then he pressed his palm on the top of his head and began to search for his soul. In the middle of the search, the cold on in Yi Tian's eyes killed, and another black cloud flew from his side, turned into more than 10 shares and flew in different directions, joining the ranks of those monks. After a while, the wire ants released by Yi Tian return one after another, and Yi Tian has finished his soul search. With a spit of strength on his palm, he kills the monk. After collecting many of the ants, Yi Tian fell in front of Naji like a breeze. Naji, these friars are not really from Zhangyang Palace, but they are not practicing Yuan religion. It's a disciple of Qingyun sect, one of the 8 sects in the spiritual realm. Qingyun sect? The barbarians in Qingyun sect don't seem to have any hatred of life and death. Why do they want to kill us? Asked Najiak suspiciously. Yi Tian said with a gloomy face, the supreme pavilion in Mengan City is the property of Qingyun sect. When you have a conflict with Zhangyang Palace, the people of Qingyun sect are in the pavilion. In order to stir up the conflict between Zhangyang Palace and your barbarians, they started secretly. When Yi arrived, they changed their mind and tried to blame Zuyuanjiu. In addition to these friars, Qingyun sect has also sent 3 groups of friars to carry out this plan. Not only you, but also Yi is within the scope of their killing. Is Qingyun sect too insidious? No wonder my father didn't let us set foot in the Terran friars' territory. He said it was extremely dangerous here. Now it seems that it's even more dangerous than I thought. Hearing what Yi Tian said, Najiak said angrily. Your father? Yi Tian looks at Najiak suspiciously. Oh, Brother Yi Tian, I haven't had a chance to introduce myself before. I'm the prince of the barbarians, and my father is the king of the barbarians today. This time, I sneaked out of the wilderness with them, just to see the outside world. I didn't expect that Yi Tian was the one who saved me when I was in danger twice. Please accept Naji's help. At this time, Najiak not only changed his name, but also knelt down on the ground and kowtowed to Yi Tian. The other 7 people behind him also followed him. All right, get up. Naji, you are also a prince. Don't kneel down like a woman. You and I met twice in succession. Thank you. let's not say. Let's think about how to escape the pursuit of Qingyun sect. It's estimated that people in Zhangyang Palace will not let you go easily. Let's go back to the wilderness as soon as possible. Yi Tian waved his hand, and said that he could not laugh or cry. Brother Yi Tian, we are just going back to the wild. Although the barbarians are fierce, they are simple in nature. They are not suitable for staying in the Terran area for too long. If it wasn't for Brother Yi Tian's help, we might not even know who would kill us. Najiak returned in a gruff voice. Then take advantage of the fact that the people of Qingyun sect in Zhangyang Palace haven't yet. Yi Tian nodded slightly. As soon as he said that, he suddenly stopped. Then he said with a change of face, I'm afraid it's not so easy to go now. Then he made a gesture. Dun Tiansuo appeared out of thin air and magnified in a moment. Yi Tian yelled, all of you, more than a dozen monks of Yuanyingjing are coming here. With that, Yi Tian's figure flashed into Dun Tiansuo. Go up, listen to Brother Yi Tian, go up quickly. Seeing this, Najiak yelled a few times. His feet were on the ground, and his huge body jumped into the air and landed on Dun Tiansuo. Dun Tiansuo, who was suspended in the low air, could not help sinking. The other 7 barbarian men and women did not neglect, and almost jumped into Dun Tiansuo with the same posture as Najiak. Sit down. After Yi Tian had a big drink, a magic power hit Dun Tiansuo. Dun Tiansuo suddenly flashed a dazzling silver light to the south. Chase. Just when Yi Tian drove Dun Tiansuo away for less than 10 minutes, more than a dozen figures flashed past the place where Dun Tiansuo took off and chased him in the direction where he went. How fast? I'm afraid they can't catch up. Najiak and others turned to look at more than a dozen shadows in the sky. It took them a long time to exclaim. Yi Tian stood in front of Dun Tiansuo and said without looking back, although our speed is fast, there are many Terran friars who can still catch up. Don't be so optimistic. It's possible that the danger is still behind us. If you just want to kill these 10 monks, Yi Tian has many ways. But Yi Tian knows very well that it's very easy to kill more than 10 Yuanyingjing monks, but what about after that? It is certain that someone will soon know what happened to these monks in Yuanyingjing, and then there will be more monks in Washingjing, even the great monk in Yupujing. After all, in Duanjian Villa, there were 2 great friars from Taiyimen. It's easy to do it on your own. You can hide and kill yourself. There are some small moving runes, and even immortal tools such as Tianluonet, Hoibao and Wuxingzu. There are many ways to escape the pursuit of the great friars in Yupu. But Najiak, the 8 barbarian friars, couldn't do it. He absolutely didn't have the ability to escape the pursuit of the great friar of Yupu realm with so many cumbersome things. Moreover, they are not very familiar with each other, and the basic trust has not been fully established. Even if Yi Tian wants to send them all to the magic cave, the other party may not agree. However, Yi Tian has been a man of 2 generations and read countless people. Although he has known Najiak for a short time, he has seen that these barbarian youths are simple and honest in heart, with clear love and hatred. It would be a pity to die in the hands of the human friars. What's more, it's the identity of this man. If this man's son had an accident here, it's likely that the man-king would be angry and lead the barbarian army to the Terran area. At that time, because of the scum of several Terran friars, countless innocent Terrans would suffer. If things continue to expand, it will even lead to the hostility of the whole barbarians to the human race. Once the balance of peaceful coexistence in the past is broken, the barbarians and the human race will hate each other from generation to generation. From then on, both of them will never have peace. This is what Yi Tian doesn't want to see. So, he just wanted to do his best to avoid such a tragedy. In order to catch up with more than a dozen Yuanyingjing monks, after determining each other's limit speed, he began to slowly slow down Dun Tiansuo's speed without any trace. At this time, the monks who were chasing behind were talking while chasing. A square-faced monk flying in the front said to one of the people around him, Elder Marshal Brother Tian, do you want to ask for help from Zongman? If we lose it in our hands, we can't afford the punishment of the clan. The friar, known as Elder Marshal Brother Tian, was a middle-aged friar who was slightly emaciated around him. The man took a look at the direction of Dun Tiansuo's flight and said, don't worry. Keep chasing. You see their speed is slowing down. This kind of flying magic weapon should be driven by the power like the best fairy jade. They won't have so many fairy jade. The power should be exhausted soon. At that time, this rare flying magic weapon is ours. If you ask for help from the school, it may not be cheaper. If you kill those people, elder martial brother, I only need this flying magic weapon. No matter how much wealth it is, you can share the rest equally. I will never take any more. Well, I don't want anything else. I just want those Lingchong whose surname is Yi. The rest will be shared equally by other younger martial brothers. The square-faced friar narrowed his eyes, looked at Dun Tianxua, who was getting shorter and shorter in front of him, and said, Brother Tan, you see, the speed of that flying magic weapon has really slowed down. That's right. Elder martial brother, I always have a good eye. If we go on like this, we can catch up with them in a little time. Except for dealing with those spirit insects carefully, the rest of us are not a problem. Tan surnamed friar quite complacent ground says. No, elder martial brother Tan, look. The speed of that flying magic weapon is faster. The square-faced friar is nodding slightly to show his approval of what the Tan friar said, but suddenly his eyes are fixed and he says. His eyes saw that the speed of the magic weapon which had slowed down had suddenly increased, which made the shortened distance between the two sides longer, and almost kept at the same speed as his own group. Hearing the words, Monk Tan locked his mind on Dun Tianxua and observed for a moment. Then he said with a smile, Younger martial brother son, you're not surprised. You don't see that some of them are inputting mana into the flying magic weapon. All magic weapons can be driven by mana. And this flying magic weapon is no exception. Based on the use of Xinyu power, supplemented by mana, the speed will be greatly improved. This is the reason for the current speed increase, but originally I thought it was a rare treasure, but now it seems that it is more precious than my elder martial brother thought. With their accomplishments, it only takes one person to raise the speed to such a level. What if it is driven by us? I'm sure the speed is unimaginable. When he said this, the other people's eyes on Dun Tianxua were burning. They wished they could take it for themselves immediately. The monk surnamed Tan was also very powerful. He only guessed the general principle and situation of Dun Tianxua by his own guess, but he was totally wrong. That is, at this time, Dun Tianxua's speed was increased not because Naji input mana to Dun Tianxua, but because Yi Tian increased Dun Tianxua's speed through the power of the best Xinyu. And he let Naji pretend to press his hand in front of Dun Tianxua, just to confuse the pursuing monks. As expected, the other side was mobilized by Yi Tian, and really mistakenly thought that it was through mana that the speed was improved. Dun Tianxua flew at the current speed for some time. He replaced Naji and asked a young barbarian to imitate Naji and put his palm in front of Dun Tianxua. Dun Tianxua's speed slowed down, and then increased, so that the two sides just shortened to the distance and opened up a little. Younger martial brother son, look, elder martial brother, I'm right. The barbarian boy in front of me has run out of mana, so he has another one. There are only 9 of them. How much mana can we consume? When all their mana is exhausted, it's time for us to do it. See the situation of Dun Tianxua. The friar surnamed Tan said triumphantly. Friar Sun nodded with a smile and said, Elder martial brother Tan has a point. When he catches up with them, he should kill Yi as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will be in trouble. It's not that we are afraid of spirit insects, because those spirit insects have been assigned to me. If we cause losses in the scuffle, it's all the younger martial brothers' losses. Don't worry about that. Although his spirit worm can deal with the friars of Jindan realm, he may not know how terrible the strength of the friars of Yuanying realm is. Elder martial brother here guarantees that when he catches up with them, he will kill them with one sword. Friar Tan laughed and said, at that time, you can divide up the spoils at will. At least there is a top magic weapon flying sword in the barbarian boy. He should have a high status among the barbarians. The 7 people seem to be his followers, and the treasures he brings must be few. Many Yuanying Jing monks' eyes were shining, and constantly urged their mana to catch up with Dun Tianxua. In the vast sky, a lonely Dun Tianxua was flying in front, and a dozen Yuanying Jing monks in the rear were chasing like a flock of birds, never giving up. In the process of chasing and escaping, time passed by bit. I don't know how long it took. At a certain moment, Friar Sun wiped the sweat on his forehead and looked at Friar Tan with a bitter face. Elder Martial Brother Tan, they have been rotating for several rounds. How can their mana not be exhausted? If they keep doing this, they can't catch up even if they are in the wilderness. Don't say what we divide up will fly by then. If you lose someone in this way, the punishment of the clan will be more severe. The friar surnamed Tan gave the younger martial brother's son a white look and said sarcastically, "Or can you only be a younger martial brother? Didn't you observe it carefully just now? Don't you see what people on the flying magic weapon send to their mouths every time their input mana is changed? Younger martial brother, you should be able to think that they are taking the elixir of restoring cultivation. I don't believe it. How many elixirs of restoring mana can they have to support such a long time of consumption? But, Elder Martial Brother Tan, I also feel that I have lost some of my mana. Otherwise, I'd better ask the sect for help." The friar surnamed Sun said with some worry. "Do you mean to say that the mana will not continue? Are you still not a monk of Yuan? It's so easy to lose mana?" It's not that there is no secret method to stimulate mana burst in Zhongmen. Even if you use it, I don't think those people will last long. Friar Tan looked at younger martial brother Sun with disdain and continued to urge the mana to fly forward. Monk Sun's eyes flashed a look of worry, and his figure slowed down slightly. However, seeing that other disciples were trying to mobilize their mana to follow Elder Martial Brother Tan, he also raised his spirit and speeded up to catch up with the team. However, during the flight, he looked at the dark shadow in the distance, but his face was extremely ugly. If he pursued like this, he would wait until his mana was completely lost. If you want to catch up again, you can only use the magic stimulation method, which is extremely harmful to your body. In front of Dun Tiansuo, Tian opened his mind and observed the situation behind him. A moment later, he sent a message to Najiak in front of him and asked, "Naji, how far is it from the wilderness?" Najiak looked around, looking for a terrain to refer to, and then sent a message back, "Brother Tian, according to this speed, there should be more than 10 days left. At the beginning, we came all the way from the wilderness to the Terran area, but it took more than 3 months. Your life is really big enough. You have survived for more than 3 months. I don't know what will happen next. You should obey the command." Tian sighed and said, but he thought to himself, "It's less than a month from Tsangming Kingdom. If it takes half a month to go to the wilderness, and then go to Tsangming Kingdom, time will be very tense. Especially now, the monks of Yuanyingjing behind them are obviously slowing down. If you speed up and get rid of them, you must tell them the same direction. Next, it is very likely that there will be a big monk of Yupujing. These people behind him, Tian, have already recognized through the memory he got from soul searching before. They are the friars of Qingyun sect. In addition to King Yanzong, there are also people from Taiyimen who haven't appeared yet, which is also what Tian worries about. Brother Tian, thank you so much this time. When you see my father, you must thank Brother Yi." Naji repeated his point and said to Yetianshan. Tian glances at other barbarian youths. These 2 days, after taking the healing pills he gave them, their injuries have recovered to 7,788. It is precisely because Tian took those healing pills according to the method he suggested that the Tan friars of Qingyun sect mistakenly thought that they were taking the healing pills to restore their mana. In fact, during this period of time, these people on Dun Tiansuo didn't waste any mana at all. Dun Tiansuo's driving flight completely depended on the best Xinyu as his power. After a brief explanation to Naji, Tianshan unconsciously pressed a rune on Dun Tiansuo, and Dun Tiansuo's speed began to slow down, so as to keep the chasing monks in sight. "Elder Martial Brother Tan, now we are really losing mana. We have been chasing for so long, but we still haven't caught up. Is it because the people in front of us are hanging us on purpose? I don't want any more spirit worms. Shall we send a message to the clan?" After a good period of time, in the pursuit of the crowd, the friar surnamed Sun said somewhat disheartened. At this time, the monk Tan's face was gloomy. At the beginning, he thought that the other side was at the end of the storm. However, with his age and experience, when the great fanaticism brought by Dun Tiansuo gradually cooled down, he began to realize it, because Dun Tiansuo's speed was too strange. They were slow, Dun Tiansuo slowed down; they were fast, Dun Tiansuo also speeded up. Although the former Dun Tiansuo may recover the power of the driver when their speed slows down, after all, there are 9 people in the family who can drive Dun Tiansuo in turn, so there is no need to fit in with them. The other side certainly does not have the ability to attack. The reason they do this is that they do not want to mobilize faster helpers on their own side. Although Monk Tan had such a guess, his strong self-confidence still made him decide to continue to pursue. He was really reluctant to miss such a high-grade flying magic weapon. If other elders of the clan got this Dun Tiansuo, he would be completely out of touch with this treasure. Thinking about this, Monk Tan glared at his younger martial brother. "Son, don't be so wordy. Haven't you heard the saying that you can travel 100 li but half 90? How many of the best fairy jade can they have? How much mana can those barbarians waste? Now that we have reached the present level, how can we give up halfway? There are rules in the clan. All the gains from the mission are owned by the disciples of the clan. Are you willing to give them up?" "I'm not willing to, but elder martial brother Tan, have you ever thought that once you lose these people, it's not that you can't get the booty? The punishment of the clan will be very serious. You know, we haven't reported the killing of those disciples in Jindan realm to Zongmen, because we were secretly monitoring them. Maybe it's because of this reason that no one came to check the jade slips when they were broken. Isn't it true that the elder of the clan didn't wait for elder martial brother Tan to report in time? Up to now, the friar's surnamed son doesn't think much of what elder martial brother Tan said. From beginning to end, elder martial brother Tan always has wishful thinking, but after such a long time, the situation has not improved. Friar's son naturally did not let go of the spirit insects he wanted very much, but he began to think about the possible consequences if he failed to chase them. After all, I said such a thing. In the future, once the pursuit fails and the clan is held accountable, I still have something to say. I repeatedly dissuade elder martial brother Tan, who is the leader of the team. But elder martial brother Tan just doesn't listen to me and prevents him from sending a message. Then I may be much less punished or even exempted from punishment." Friar Tan gave Friar Son a cold glance. Why didn't he understand what Friar Son was thinking? However, he was very reluctant to give away the flying magic weapon that he was likely to get soon. Looking at Dun Tiansuo, who was always in the field of vision, but could not catch up with him, he said in a loud voice, "Listen, all disciples, use the secret method to stimulate mana to speed up." No matter what other people do, he uses his hand gestures to pick out the pithy formula. Then he clicks on some parts of his body. In an instant, the momentum of his body explodes. The original state of Yuanying state in the later stage is improved, and it seems that he is close to the half-step state of deification. Then, he suddenly urged the top magic weapon flying sword at his feet, and turned it into an electric light to chase Dun Tiansuo. Seeing this, the rest of the monks did not dare to imitate elder martial brother Tan. They inspired the secret methods to improve their skills one after another and followed him closely to chase Dun Tiansuo. "Brother Yi, they seem to use some secret method, and their speed is suddenly fast." Dun Tiansuo, Naji saw the situation behind, exclaimed. Yi Tian had noticed the situation in the rear, and his face sank. At the same time, he said to the 8 barbarian youths on Dun Tiansuo, all pretending to input mana can lure the other side to pursue for a while. Naji and others heard Yi Tian's voice. No matter what position they were sitting in, they all turned their body to face the edge of Dun Tiansuo and pressed their palms up. Almost at the same time, Yi Tian secretly hit Dun Tiansuo with a magic power. In an instant, Dun Tiansuo's speed suddenly increased, and the shortened distance between the two sides immediately stopped reducing. Thus, he kept the existing distance, which was like an electric beam in the sky, and disappeared in the sky. All the people on the magic weapon of flying are pouring in mana crazily. This situation can't last long. Younger martial brothers, go all out to chase and kill. Seeing this, Monk Tan couldn't help crying in his heart, but he was angry with everyone. This kind of secret method, which can improve the cultivation temporarily, not only causes a certain degree of damage to the body, but also has a certain time limit. For example, this elder martial brother Tan can only support about half an hour for his cultivation in the later period of Yuanying state. If he can't catch up with Dun Tiansuo in half an hour, they will have no hope anymore. Time passed by bit, and half an hour was about to run out. The monk of Qingyun sect felt that his magic power was gradually declining, but he could not catch up with Dun Tiansuo. Moreover, the speed of pursuit was getting slower and slower, and the distance between the two sides was gradually widening. Well, brother Tian, those friars seem to have run out of oil and lights. Now we are completely safe. Najiak withdrew his eyes and said with a happy look. Everyone stop. Tian didn't answer his words, but his divine thought sent a message to all the young barbarians, and then a magic power was played secretly at the tip of his finger. The speed of Dun Tiansuo slowed down, even a little slower than that of the group of monks behind him. Naji, it's time to fight. If the opponent can't catch up with us, he will certainly ask for help from Qingyun sect. Next, more powerful monks will continue to chase us. If the opponent catches up with us, we will have to fight. Anyway, it's impossible to let them go. Tian stares at the rear and sends a voice to Najiak. Elder brother Tian, even if they are about to run out of mana, they are monks of Yuanyingjing after all. We are definitely not rivals. Although your spirit insects are powerful, they are too few. They don't necessarily work. This time, we'll take advantage of them and let him destroy Qingyun sect when we see my father. Naji said with some worry. Too few? Haha, these are not problems. They are just a group of monks of Yuanyingjing who are at the end of the storm. Tian said with a smile that he was ready for a thunderbolt. In his sight, the friars who were going to give up chasing Dun Tiansuo suddenly saw that Dun Tiansuo's speed slowed down sharply, but they picked up their spirits to chase him. Prepare to meet the enemy. Seeing that the monks were getting closer and closer, Tian seemed to be indifferent. He got up and gritted his teeth angrily. In his concept, more than a dozen Yuanyingjing monks were definitely not what Tian could deal with. At this point, although Tian seemed indifferent and took the initiative to kill the enemy, Naji was very worried. I'm afraid Tian has despised those Yuanyingjing monks as useless things. With his cheering, the other 7 barbarian youths immediately got up, each holding a big stick, ready to fight at any time. Tian didn't stop them, but because Naji's performance is more conducive to the implementation of his plan. Their action is too much like a desperate warrior. There is not a trace of affectation. It's just their original performance. How can there be any flaw? This kind of situation was naturally seen by the monk of Qingyun sect. Seeing this, elder martial brother Tian couldn't help but feel shocked. He put away the messenger that the general was about to send out and cried out, "See, their mana is seriously wasted, and they can't help the flying magic weapon anymore. You younger martial brothers, the pursuit in the past few days will be harvested today." At the end of the sentence, Monk Tan burst out his remaining mana again and shot at Dun Tiansuo. Inspired by him, the rest of the friars were unwilling to lag behind and followed his figure. At this time, before Naji and other barbarians responded, a black cloud flew off from Tian's side and sent out a buzzing vibration to meet the friars of Qingyun sect. Don't pay attention to these spirit insects. If you kill the one named Yi, the spirit insect will become a ownerless thing, and it will be broken by itself. Tan Friar Mouth said, he really ignored those who rushed to the body of the wire ants, straight toward Tian. Seeing this situation, the rest of the monks also ignored the wire ants and tried to kill Tian in one fell swoop. On Dun Tiansuo, he saw that the distance between the two sides was only 20 to 30 zhang. Tianling laughed, and his mind moved. Another black cloud came out from his side, and nearly 10,000 clematis shot at the people of Qingyun sect. There are so many pet insects. Fast back. This black cloud is much larger than the black cloud formed by the previous group of clematis. In Najiak's exclamation, Friar Tan suddenly saw such a large number of clematis. He was so surprised that he wanted to stop and escape here with a big drink. But all his mana is about to run out, and he is flying away quickly. It's not easy for him to change his direction and escape. Just when he was a little slow, the black wire ant had come up. Friar Tan mobilized the remaining mana to make a violent shock. The explosive power of the mana would fly to a part of the iron wire near him, but then he jumped on him again. Before Friar Tan sent out his mana again, he had already jumped on him. This situation made the monk Tian's face changed greatly. He ran away and took out a message symbol to inspire him. At this time, the rest of the friars of Qingyun sect, like him, were covered with dense wire ants and gnawed at them crazily. If at ordinary times, as monks of Yuanyingjing, they must have enough means to leave before the Taisyan ants get close to them. But now, their mana is almost exhausted, and they are more than willing but less powerful. More than a dozen monks in Yuanying realm were surrounded by more than 10,000 ironline ants. Their fighting power was no better than that of the monks in Jindan realm. After a little longer, the only remaining mana shield was also broken by ironline ants, and then they were devoured. On Dun Tiansuo, Yi Tianyan looks at such a situation, but his face is not relaxed. He looked at Naji and others who were shocked by such a large number of wire ants and said, "Naji, next, the other party's high-level friars will surely arrive, but the time is unpredictable. If you continue to use this flying magic weapon to escape, there will be no advantage, and you will never be able to compete with the other side in speed. Brother Yi Tian, if you have any way, just say it." Although Naji was born and grew up in the barbarians, he didn't know much about the cultivation realm of the human friars. Moreover, since he came to the human region, he had seen too many high-level human friars. Knowing that what Yi Tian said was absolutely true, he said directly, "Well, I have a magic cave. If you can fully trust Yi, you can all enter the magic cave. Yi left here with the magic cave and sent you to the barbarian area. It should be much safer than walking together." With that, Yi Tian looks at Naji waiting for his reply. Yi Tian never enters the cave himself. He is mainly for the sake of safety. His own life must be in his own hands. I believe every friar has this idea, so at the beginning, Yi Tian didn't want Naji to put forward this method. Hearing what Yi Tian said, Naji hesitated for a moment, looked back at the other 7 young people of the same race, then turned back and said, "Brother Yi Tian, don't worry. You have saved our lives several times. For a few days, you have been paying for us, and now you have made a feud with Qingyun sect for us. We can trust you. We all go into the cave. Well, if he is in danger and really can't escape, he will let you out, and then you will run for your own lives. He will never let the magic weapon cave fall into the hands of bad people." Yi Tian nodded slightly and said, then with a gesture, an empty magic weapon cave appeared out of thin air, and quickly enlarged and suspended beside Dun Tiansuo. Into the cave. Seeing that the gate is closed by Yi Tian, Naji doesn't neglect it anymore. He yells and enters the cave first. The rest of the barbarian youth naturally only Najima is the first to look forward, followed by a quick follow-up of the cave. When all the 8 barbarian youths entered the magic cave, Yi Tian's magic power hit the magic cave. In a flash, the shadow of the cave turned into the size of a fist and appeared in the palm of Yi Tian's hand, then disappeared. Almost at the same time, there was Yi Tian who disappeared from the original place. He once again used the hidden killing technique to hide his body. The invisible Yi Tian looks at the scene of the ironline ants eating the friars of Qingyun sect with indifference. Since he has no hatred with Qingyun sect, and Qingyun sect has no politeness in order to frame Zhenyang Palace and cause the conflict between the forces behind him and Zhenyang Palace, which he does not exist at all. More than a dozen Yuan Jing monks of Qingyun sect were about to run out of mana, so they used the secret method to stimulate their mana and temporarily improve their accomplishments. Their mana overdraft was extremely serious. As time went on, their combat power became even worse. Within a radius of tens of miles, more than a dozen monks of Qingyun sect were scattered everywhere. The howling sound came from different directions. With the passage of time, the sound gradually decreased, and the friars with intact bodies began to turn into fragments and fall to the ground. Attached to the friars on the body of the wire ant than a coaxin fly, came to the air somewhere disappeared. After more than 10 breaths, Yi Tian, who had recovered most of the clematis, suddenly had a mental movement. The thousands of clematis that had not yet been recovered suddenly scattered and flew away in different directions. In a flash, they disappeared in the vast sky. At the same time, several aura ripples appeared in the sky, and then a monk in a grey robe stepped out of the sky. As soon as he appeared, his body suddenly fell to the ground, and his eyes were like hawks scanning the nearby broken limbs. Without exception, the dozen friars of Qingyun sect were all dismembered into corpses by tens of thousands of clematis, and there was no living friar. The grey-robed friar's face was gloomy and his eyes were cold. Then he slowly closed his eyes, released his mind and explored the surrounding situation. After a moment, his face became more gloomy. Just a moment after staying in the same place, this person suddenly flies up into the air, flies to the high altitude, and then presses with one hand in the air. With his palm as the center, a spherical aura mass that is constantly expanding rapidly appears out of the air, and the aura ripples spread rapidly to the distance. This person closes his eyes again and feels the fluctuation of the aura ripples. After more than 10 breaths, his palm was retracted, and the ripple of aura that was spreading in all directions gradually disappeared. Then he opened his eyes again, and his figure flashed, and he continued to emit a wave of aura at 100 miles away. So many times, the grey-robed friar didn't spend much time to explore the nearby area, but still got nothing. Until this time, his brow was slightly wrinkled, and his face was full of meditation. After a few more breaths, he flew up again and shot to the distance. His target was a group of clematis that had already flown hundreds of miles away. About 400 or 500 of them were flying separately at first. Later, they gathered together and were flying towards the front. When the grey-robed old man could catch up with the group of clematis, the clematis disappeared out of thin air. The grey-robed old man's eyes flashed fiercely and a mana burst out with him. The target was exactly where the clematis disappeared. Boom! A terrible mana burst out of thin air at the place where the Tian ant colony disappeared. The powerful shockwave quickly spread in all directions. The surrounding air was in chaos, and the clouds were broken. Like waves, they yearned to rush away. When he didn't see that the invisible man had been killed, the grey-robed monk could not help but let out a light. His 2 fingers in the middle of the meal were a little forward, and a sword light appeared out of thin air. Then it turned into a length of about 3 feet, marking a big silver light and sweeping around aimlessly. Although the sword light is huge, it is extremely flexible and fast. It seems like a flash of light and shadow. However, in more than 10 minutes, it sweeps all the surrounding space, but still nothing. When the man reached out his hand, the light of the sword suddenly disappeared and changed into a flying sword of about 3 feet. The cold light flashed back to the grey-robed monk. At this time, somewhere underground, Tian is hidden in the depths of the earth. He looks at the grey-robed monk in the sky through Tian's eyes. There is still a color of fear in his heart. If he had not used Tian Linji, he would have been affected by the terrorist attack of the monk Huipao. I didn't expect that the other side would react so quickly. But now, the other party obviously didn't find his hiding place. Tian naturally won't take unnecessary risks in order to take back those wire ants. I believe that with his hidden killing technique, the other party may not be able to find himself. Just as he was thinking about this, he saw that the grey-robed monk's mana burst out suddenly, and his fingers kept pinching. After counting the breath, his body was shining with gold. Then he pointed to the ground, and he drank loudly, turning stone into gold. With his cheering, the ground within tens of miles quickly turned into golden color, as if it really turned into gold. It's just looking down from the sky, but when Tian looks deep underground through Tian's eye, he can see that it's not just the surface that turns yellow. From the surface down, yellow is spreading rapidly, and the underground soil is gradually hardening. It's a powerful metal Taoist art. With Tian's knowledge, he naturally knows what kind of magic power it is. It seems that the other party has guessed that he is hiding underground, so he makes such a move. Seeing such a situation, Tian naturally doesn't have any more adventurous mentality. With a move of his mind, the 5 element beads immediately appear in his hands. With a slight push of his mana, a spherical virtual shadow appears around his body. Then he flies away at full speed. At this time, the surrounding soil had been completely covered by the metal Taoist art of the grey-robed friars. The golden soil was as hard as iron stone, but it was still helpless for Tian's 5 element beads. After 5 or 6 breaths, Tian has left the metal hardening area and is in the soil. As soon as his mana is recovered, the spherical shadow around him disappears. However, he does not stay at all and continues to escape to the distant soil, turning stone into gold. In the sky, I don't know if the gray-robed monk has found any trace of Tian. After hardening the area just now, he again mobilized his mana and continued to cast metal mana towards another underground area. And this area is just the area Tian just escaped from. When Tian escaped from this area, the soil behind him had been hardened by metal Taoism. Looking back at the golden and stone-like hardened soil behind him, Tian's face showed the color of meditation. From the hardened soil, Tian has guessed that the other party still does not find his own existence, otherwise it is impossible to make mistakes in the prediction, and this metal Taoist art is not to kill or trap himself, but to rely on this Taoist art to determine his own existence. Because he found that this man's metal Taoist art only lasted for more than 10 breaths. As soon as time passed, the metal Taoist art would be released naturally, and it would not have the effect of encircling himself at all. As for killing, it's even more impossible. A monk's physical strength is not comparable to that of ordinary people. It's impossible to kill a monk if he wants to harden through the soil, especially a monk with many means like himself. And the other party is likely to want to use this kind of Taoist art to force himself to show his appearance in confusion, and then pursue and kill him. Otherwise, if you have found your whereabouts, you will not use this less lethal metal Taoist art. However, Tian is a little vigilant. If he just wants to escape, he will not be able to enter the underground. He is afraid that he will be in a very dangerous situation when he is surrounded by powerful enemies. On the one hand, Tian carefully uses the technique of earth hiding to get away from the gray-robed friar quickly, and on the other hand, he sends out a divine command to the wire ants who are still out of sight. The gray-robed friar didn't take the opportunity to hunt down the scattered clematis, but it made Tian feel very relieved. Maybe he didn't want to give up searching for Tian because he was chasing them. Maybe he didn't think those clematis were important at all. Anyway, Tian was happy to see that they didn't suffer any losses. In the sky, the gray-robed friar stopped after 5 or 6 times of metal Taoism. He floated in the sky again and kept scanning around. At this time, his mind was completely open, and he still didn't give up searching for Tian's trace. Unfortunately, up to now, after a variety of means, he still has nothing. At one point, as like his 2 peas in a grey robe, the monk of the grey robe seemed to give up searching, suddenly moving away from the original place, and on the surface, exactly the same as the great move. However, when Tian saw the figure through Tian's eyes, there was a sneer on his lips. Tian searched the memory of the monk of Qingyun sect. From the first moment he saw him, he knew his identity from his memory. It was the 3rd ancestor among the 3 ancestors of Qingyun sect. His name was Jun Wuzheng. The friars who can cultivate in Yupu are certainly not ordinary people. They are the best choice in terms of their aptitude, savvy, perseverance, and ingenuity. The 3rd ancestor of Qingyun sect is a crafty friar by nature. The strategy of blaming Zhengyang Palace came from this man. Tian would not believe that he would give up and leave easily. Under the light of Tian's eyes, Tian saw the faint shadow of Jun Wuzheng, still standing on the high altitude and exploring everywhere. It was the skill of Fengdun that ordinary friars could hardly detect. If this skill is in flight, it may show a lot of tracks, but it is absolutely difficult to see with the naked eye if it stands still, unless it uses the divine exploration. However, Tian uses the source eye instead of the mind. In front of this person's powerful mind, if Tian moves a little, he will be keenly noticed by the other party. Maybe he won't get it, but at least he reveals his own deeds. Tian secretly guesses that maybe the other party is trying to lure him to explore his mind by this means to lock his position. By this time, he had stopped hiding in the earth. He just looked at Jun Wuzheng in the sky quietly. There was no breath in his whole body, as if there was no such monk as him in the earth. Bit by bit, the 2 kept motionless, one in the sky and the other underground, hiding their bodies. Until more than half an hour later, Jun Wuzheng still didn't find anything in the sky. Maybe he felt that Tian must have left here, so he used the technique of wind escape and flew to the south quickly. After the other party left for more than 10 minutes, Tian observed the surroundings with Tian's eye, then continued to use Tuduan and went west. As for Sumi Jia, who killed those friars before, he didn't care at all. Maybe Jun Wu, who didn't know where he was flying, was locking here with his mind and was waiting for himself to clean up the battlefield. Moreover, Yi Tian despises the wealth of more than a dozen Yuan infant monks. There is a great deal of wealth in his Shumi precepts. After escaping for more than 10 miles, Yi Tian stopped again. In a previous routine observation of Yuan Tianian, he was surprised to find that there were dozens of dark shadows in the northern sky. With the gradual enlargement of the dark shadows, Yi Tian saw clearly that they were the monks of Tai spirit realm who he had seen before, but there were no two ancestors, Ji Leagwei and Li Leagwei. Did Taiyiman also get the news? Yi Tian frowned and continued to observe. The friar's flying speed slowed down gradually until they came to the battlefield where Taixianyi killed the friar of Qingyun sect and stopped slowly. Someone went down to have a look. After picking up some of the dead friar's Shumi commandments from the ground, they handed them to one of the friars in Chinese style. The monk's cheek was slightly collapsed, his eyes were bulging like goldfish, and he had a sparse beard. He took Shumi precepts, and soon put down the brand of Xinyan. Xinyan took a look in it, and then he threw it to the fellow disciple who handed in Shumi precepts. It's really a member of Qingyun sect, and there is a token of Qingyun sect's disciple in it. What the 5 elders said is extremely true, and I also checked the cause of their death, which is consistent with the cause of death of those disciples in Zhangyang Palace. They are all caused by the extremely terrible spirit insects. It should be sure that the person who took the hand is Yi Tian, said the friar to the friar in splendid clothes. It's the same kind of spiritual insect, but it's not necessarily Yi Tian. Who can guarantee that Yi Tian is the only one in this spiritual realm to have this kind of spiritual insect? According to my elder, there are at least 10 monks killed by the spiritual insect, and there are not a few broken Yuaniing who are not by it. Yi Tian has only Longmen realm cultivation. How can the spiritual insect he keeps have such power? If it has something to do with Yi Tian, it must also have something to do with the forces behind Yi Tian. It's very important when such a force appeared in Taiman spirit realm. Anyway, there are not many clues about this matter for the time being. It can only fall on Yi Tian and inform his disciples that if they want to arrest him secretly, they must stay alive. 5 elders in gorgeous clothes pondered and said. At this point, the man suddenly looked up at the sky. With a ripple, a friar in a grey robe appeared. Senior gentleman. Taiyiman 5 elders see this person's appearance, can't help but look at Zhang, murmur to call away. The 3rd ancestor of Qingyun sect is a famous figure in Taiman spiritual realm. Although few people can see his true face, as the 5 elders of Tai sect, the friar in Huafu has seen Yu Wuzheng. As soon as Jun Wuzhengfu appeared, he swept the corpse on the ground with a gloomy face. Then his eyes fell on the monk's Shumi ring, and his voice said coldly, Tai, do you think Qingyun sect is empty? Is it impossible to kill our disciples and plunder their property here? Tai sect and Qingyun sect are among the 8 sects in the Taiman spiritual realm. Although there has been a gap between them for a long time, the strength comparison between the 2 sects is not much different. If 2 monks of the same realm meet, they can't tell which one is higher or lower. But now, when Taiyi monk of Washinjing meets the ancestor of Yupujing of Qingyun sect, he will be shorter. Moreover, as soon as the other party appeared, they put such a big hat on Taiyiman. They did appear at the scene of the fight, and they did have Zumaji, a disciple of Qingyun sect, in their hands. They were really speechless. Many of the Taiyi monks, including the 5 elders, were awed in their hearts. The 5th elder was always the leader of this action, and he came forward to negotiate with Yu Wuzheng. He hugged Jun Wuzheng and said, "What kind of person are you? Can't you see what means your disciples died? I am too many people by chance here, see such a situation, is verifying the identity of the dead fellow, to discuss how to report to your zone. And through some clues, we can analyze who the killer is." "Oh, what did you find?" "You have no right to go back. Naturally, you know the whole story very well." At this time, he is determined on Yi Tian, and revenge is the second. What he wants most is Yi Tian's superb hidden killing skill. If his Jade Pu realm cultivation is combined with such magical hidden killing skill, I'm afraid there are few monks in the same realm who can compete with him in the whole too wild spiritual realm. As a result, what he cares most about is some information about Yi Tian. When he heard that the 5 elders of Taiyiman had found something, Jun Wuzheng was just trying to cover up his embarrassment of pursuing Yi Tian for nothing, but the topic of taking the lead in accountability was suppressed and he turned to ask for details. Well, according to our investigation, 8 barbarian youths colluded with a Terran friar named Tian, who once drove Lingchong to kill more than a dozen Jindanjing disciples of Zhengyang Palace in Meng'an City. Irreconcilable opposed to the barbarian as like as two peas, the people and the barbarians have heard this story. They have learned a lot about Anqing, and found that the injuries of the disciples here are exactly the same as those of the insect that the leaf Tian drives. The 5 elders said slowly as they considered their words. After hearing what the 5 elders of Taiyimen said, Jun Wujing sneered in his heart. He was very clear about Meng'an City. However, in the mouth of the 5 elders, he meant to stir up the relationship between Qingyun's sect and the barbarians, and put all the responsibility on the barbarians. Even Yi Tian's hand was linked with the barbarians. However, although he knew it in his heart, he didn't show it in his face. On the contrary, he said with a strange smile, "Do you think I will be prayed by you when you say that? Who is that Yi? What background? What is the realm of cultivation? You may be clear?" "Sir, I really don't need to prevaricate. With the supernatural power of the elder, I should have covered this place for a long time. What's the situation? The elder should judge in his heart. As for that Yi Tian, he has only the cultivation of Longmen realm. I don't know his origin yet, but he drives a lot of spirit insects. Besides, he doesn't find anything special." 5 elder quickly say. Hearing this, Jun Wujing sneered, "Do you think I can believe your prevarication? Unless you help me find out the whereabouts of the barbarians or Yi Tian, and then I search for the soul myself. If they did it, it's nothing to do with you. Let's leave it. If it's not, all of you here will die, and even the old Guanli of Tai can't protect you. Yes, we will try our best to do it since you ordered us." In the face of the old monster in Yupu realm of Qingyun sect, even the 5 elders in Tai sect dare not get angry. In order to get rid of each other quickly, he naturally agrees. Anyway, as for what to do in the future, Yu Wujing has no way. Who knows, Jun Wuzheng, who has always been deeply scheming, is not so easy to fool. When he heard that the 5 elders of Taiyimen agreed to this, he continued with a change of face, "Naturally, I don't believe you. Now I want to plant a unique forbidden system on you. You can resist. I will kill the rebels on the spot and avenge the 10 disciples who fell from our school." "No, sir, we didn't do it for your disciples." 5 elders smell speech. I color a change, hurriedly back a few steps. "If you get that surname Yi in the future and know that the death of our disciple has nothing to do with you, I will naturally lift the ban for you. If you try to escape, today is the day of your death." Jun Wuzhing's eyes narrowed, and there was a terrible murder between his eyes. Even the voice of his voice made Taiyimen feel cold all over. As soon as he finished, he made a gesture, and a golden light shot into the chest and abdomen of the 5 elders. Suddenly, the 5 elders, who were in the spirit realm, could not escape. "Elder gentleman. You." The 5 elders said with a pale face. As soon as they said the words, Jun Wuzheng gave him a cold look. Then he made a continuous gesture, shooting golden lights at the other 30 monks. At the critical moment of life and death, these Taiyai Washinjing monks really dare not dodge. It's too simple to kill a Taiyai Washinjing monk with the strength of Yupujing Great Monk. No one dares to turn against the Great Monk on the spot now, so he has to let the other plant this unknown prohibition in his body. As long as you don't die at this time, the ancestors of our sect will decide for you. No matter what, it's not very difficult for you to find Yi Tian's trace. Seeing that everyone in Taiyimen was obediently allowing himself to plant the prohibition, Jun Wuzhing's face was slightly better. He looked around the crowd and said in a cold voice, "I'm the only one who can solve the prohibition. If other people want to lift the prohibition, then you will be dead or alive, and I won't be responsible. Even if it's Gulaegway and Lilaegway, you might as well try whether what I said is true or false. Within 15 days, if this prohibition is not removed, it will attack itself. You will know the result. So, you only have 15 days left. Moreover, if I find that Yi Tian has been searched by anyone before I take him, it will be counted on you as well. Now, you can sit here and wait until the 15th, when the ban breaks out, or you can go back to the sect and find a geomantic treasure land to pray for a good reincarnation next time. Or, go and look for Yi Tian now. Well, Mr. Jun, we are going to look for Yi Tian now. The 5 elders could not help shivering when they heard that Junwu was just bluffing himself. However, all the great monks who had reached Yupu realm were always doing what they said. Otherwise, after 15 days, they would have nothing to do. The 3 words Jun Wuzhang naturally became a joke. As the 3rd ancestor of Qingyun sect, Jun Wuzhang has no reason to do such a self-destructive thing. That is to say, Yu Wuzhang's statement about the prohibition is mostly true. Up to now, the 5 elders have gone out of their mind to ask for help from the patriarch of the sect, and are ready to go to find Yi Tian first. It's really no good, and then report it to the 2 patriarchs of the sect truthfully. As the 5 elders said, Jun Wuzhang just waved his hand carelessly, and then moved his hand to move the Shumi commandments in the hands of the Tiananmen monk. Then the gesture continued to move, and there was light on the ground. In his hands, it was the Shumi commandments scattered by the disciples of Qingyun sect. 5 elders and others have no intention to stay here. Under his leadership, they silently control the flying sword and fly south. After Jun Wuzhang received Shumi commandment, dozens of flames burst out continuously, burning all the corpses on the ground. Then he took a look at the direction of the 5 elders, and his figure disappeared from the original place. After everyone left, Yi Tian, who had been watching the movement here, pondered underground. If it said that the 3rd ancestor of Qingyun sect pursued himself for revenge for his disciples, why did the people of Tai sect also pursue themselves? Is it because Duan Feishue's ban was broken? But it's not as if more than 30 monks were coming at the same time. You know, for any monk, the cultivation time is very precious. If Yi Tian is not looking for the space channel to return to the Earth and the dilemma of returning to his hometown as soon as possible to save the Earth, he will definitely not wander outside. It is the most important thing to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Time is the most precious thing for any friar in any realm, even for the great friar in Yupu realm. Which great friar in Yupu realm doesn't want to go further and break through the bottleneck of Yupu realm and enter into the realm of heaven? In particular, the Tsangming world is about to open, and the sect should take this as the key moment. Do you just hate yourself? He had been waiting underground for more than half an hour, until there was no more movement from the outside world, and no friars appeared. Yi Tiankai started carefully and continued to use the earth to escape to the south. Since there are more than 30 monks of Tai sect in the south, the 3 ancestors of Qingyun sect will not focus on the south. Compared with a great monk of Yupu sect, it is easier to deal with more than 30 monks of Huashan sect. On the first day, Yi Tianqing stopped and stopped. When he was a hermit, he kept observing the outside world. At the beginning, it was okay. Nothing special happened. But later, he saw several groups of friars flying from north to south in groups, and they flashed in the sky. Yi Tian could not judge the identity of them. In addition, there are many animal carts. There are prohibitions against the detection of gods in the carriages. We can also know who is sitting inside. Is there something happened in the south, and are the monks of the latter coming for themselves? On the 3rd day, the number of monks going south gradually increased, and there were often dozens or hundreds of them. As for the realm of cultivation, it was from Jindan realm to Yuanying realm, and even to Huashan realm. Some of them, Yi Tian, have found some familiar faces from his memory. There are Taiman monks and Qingyunzong monks. Yi Tian even finds a person he knows most in the crowd, that is Duanjian of Duanjian Villa. This person and a few friars of Broken Sword Mountain Villa all the way, also hurried to the south. If you say that others come for you, Yi Tian can accept it. If Duanjian comes to arrest him, Yi Tian is a little unbelievable. But what happened to attract so many monks? Yi Tian was really curious. After pondering underground for a moment, Yi Tian observed the situation on the ground, then retreated forward for a distance, and then turned upward. When he was about to reach the ground, he motioned and took out the 5 element beads. After the 5 element beads were activated by the magic power, Yi Tian's figure flashed in the spherical shadow and came to the hollow belly of a stone peak on the ground. This is a natural grotto, in which many colorful stalagmites hung above the grottos. There are clear mountains and streams flowing underground. Although it is cool inside, it is very quiet. It seems that no one has ever been here, there was no sign. After another careful exploration, Tian makes sure it's safe enough. Then he takes out a magic cave. Xianrun, come out and meet me. When the cave is enlarged, Tian calls softly. Master, the old slave is here. In the magic cave, Xianrun came out, looked at the surrounding environment in the mountainside, and responded respectfully as usual. Xianrun, the external environment is a little complicated now. You may have to deal with it a lot, and you are very likely to face the Great Friar of Yupu realm. Are you afraid? Tian asked calmly. I'm not afraid. I know that my master has the power of the Flint Emperor, and I don't spend it easily. But when I'm in danger, my master won't stand by. I heard that my master has killed 2 great friars of Yupu realm and Lansung spirit realm one after another. If my master tries his best, no one should be able to resist his master's attack. Xianrun look unchanged said. Tian is speechless for a while. It seems that this guy is really counting on himself. However, unless he has to face himself, he will never use it again. It's his biggest dependence, and it's a big killing weapon against the body and bones of Ming Xiu. How can he consume his last chance? However, Tian would not show his mind. He just nodded a little and said, many times, experience is precious wealth. Courage comes from confidence. Only when you have experienced the feeling of confrontation with high-level monks and believe that you have the strength to defeat each other, can you continue to grow and break through yourself. Although you claim to be an old slave, he never treats you as a slave, but as a disciple. I hope you don't waste the time following me, break the shackles, and improve as soon as possible. Yes, master, it's a blessing for old slave Xianrun to listen to his master's advice sooner or later. If master's words are kept in mind, old slave will live up to his master's expectations. Since the master has given the old slave the chance to harden, he must cherish it. Although Tian said it casually, Xianrun listened to it conscientiously, and then gave a deep gift to Tian, with a very devout attitude. Well, don't be so polite. Get up and talk. After this period of continuous contact, Tian was able to confirm that this person could recognize the situation and put himself in a correct position. He was both odd and dependent on himself. He needed a lot of help from himself. Moreover, he was forbidden by his mind. Many factors combined together should not produce any strange feelings, so he gently lifted him up, said, since it is possible to face a strong enemy, you will naturally give you a certain card, so as not to suffer losses at that time. With these words, a silver ball appeared in Tian's hand and handed it to Xianrun's hand. You should know this treasure very well. You have seen how to use it. Once in the last spiritual realm, Mingzuan's skeleton was captured by this treasure. Now I will give it to you as a means to protect his life. Xianrun naturally knew that it was a heavenly net. At that time, Xianrun had to wait and see. Unexpectedly, today, Tian handed over the treasure to himself. Xianrun took over Tian Luo net excitedly and bowed himself again. Thank you for your trust. I will repay you with my death. Tian waved his hand with a smile. Xianrun, let you follow Yi, in order to avoid your death, but not let you follow Yi to die. You should be clear about this. Not only will you not die, but you will refine a few pills to increase your longevity later. Later, you will help you break through the Jade Pu realm or even the Heavenly Palace realm according to your performance. So you want to live a better life. One day, you will help you increase all the longevity yuan you lost in your practice. Well, you first recognize Tian Luo net as the master, and get familiar with the use of this treasure. Yi is going to start alchemy now. Yes, master. Xianrun answered happily and went to one side. Tian stands in the same place and looks at Xianrun for a moment, then turns to enter the magic weapons cave. As time went by, Xianrun began to practice the use of Tian Luo net after he recognized Tian Luo net as the master. As time went on, after practicing again and again, he was able to use this treasure more skillfully. I don't know how much time, a moment, always calm magic weapon cave door, Tian's figure suddenly came out from inside. Welcome master. See Tian appear, Xianrun look happy to come over, bow to salute, is still a pair of respectful appearance. Yi Tian is speechless, but he doesn't want to correct it too much. This is at least someone else's attitude. He looks at the Tian Luonet still holding Xianrun's hand and asks, "How are you doing?" "Master, I've been able to use it skillfully, but I'm short of my own mana. I can't exert too much power of Tian Luonet, but I think it's invincible in the realm of transforming God. As for Yupu realm, the great friars in the early stage can be trapped, but it's hard to say in the middle stage. But the specific effect depends on the actual combat situation. The above is just my guess." Although Xianrun was modest, his face was flushed and full of elation. "Not enough mana?" Smell speech, Yi Tian slightly ponder, and then gesture move, 2 jade bottles appear on the hand, handed to Xianrun's hand. "This is before Yi Mao got some help to change the spirit realm friar cultivation of pill, you take it. And this." With these words, a crystal green jade vase appeared on Yi Tian's hand again. "This is the newly refined Tianqiu pill, 3 in all. Take 1 every 6 months. It can regulate the damage of the spirit descending skill to the body, and it will continue to refine in the future. When it is adjusted to a certain extent and the damage caused by the spirit descending skill is eliminated, you are still a normal monk. Besides, you can also use the psychics to suppress the realm at will. No one can see through it. It's a blessing in disguise, isn't it? Thank you for your love, old slave." Xianrun excitedly took the jade bottle, looked at the 3 jade bottles in his hand, and took out one of the Tianqiu pills that Yi Tian gave him for the first time. He swallowed it in his mouth. The master spent so much time refining the Tianqiu pills for the old slave, and the old slave was very grateful. Yi Tian waved his hand with a smile and said, "This time I enter the magic cave, I'm not only refining this kind of pill, but also refining another one. I hope I can use it. Next, you go with me and pick a faster and unobtrusive monster to drive. I understand." Xianrun looked happy, and his mind went into the spirit beast ring, and soon called out a tall black leopard monster in the late stage of the 5th level. "Master, this is good." "Yes." After getting Yi Tian's nod, Xianrun takes out the luxurious frame that Yi Tian gave him before and quickly puts it on the black leopard monster. At this time, Xianrun was like an experienced coachman. He moved as fast as a cloud in flowing water. After finishing the set, he checked it carefully again. Then he put the leopard car into the ring of spirit beast and bowed to one side. "Follow me." Yi Tianyuan's eye was shining. He observed the situation outside the mountain and found that there was no other monk nearby. He urged the 5 element beads in his hand to go out with Xianrun through the thick rocks under the cover of the illusory ball of light. At first, Xianrun had some doubts when he saw that Yi Tian wanted to go through the rocks. But when he walked through the rocks with Yi Tian's steps, his inner shock could be imagined. Although he had been fighting with Yi Tian when he couldn't return to the sea, he knew nothing about Yi Tian's getting the 5-element pearl. However, he had seen many of Yi Tian's magical methods. After he was surprised, he became accustomed to them. After all, Yi Tian had too many cards. Xianrun had less curiosity to find out, but more awe than words. All the way to the outside of the mountain, Yi Tian did not explain the 5-element beads. He just looked around at the distance and saw a black cloud buzzing from the woods. Then it disappeared. It was the wire ants who had no time to recover them. "Well, you can drive away." After collecting the wire ants, Yi Tian said calmly. "Yes, master." Xianrun promised, and the panther car appeared on the rocks in a flash. Yi Tian floats into the car, closes the car, opens the forbidden system of anti-divine exploration, and orders Xianrun. The coachman sits on the futon on the shaft of the car, and the divine idea is passed to the panther. The panther soared into the air and flew to the south with a beautiful car. In the carriage, Yi Tian swallowed an elixir to assist his cultivation. While performing his martial arts, he cast his heavenly eye and looked out of the carriage. The leopard car was stable and fast. Although it didn't fly with all its strength, it was faster than Yi Tian's Duntiansuo. All the way, it also surpassed 7 or 8 friars. "Xianrun, slow down and get close to the 2 monks in front of you. Ask them why so many monks are going south." About 10 minutes after the flight, Yi Tian in the carriage suddenly whispered to Xianrun. "Yes, master." Tian should be slightly adjusted the direction to the two friars that Tian said to fly. The two monks are in Yuanying realm. They are standing opposite each other, chatting with each other with flying swords. It seems that they are old acquaintances who come from north and south and meet here by chance. Seeing the panther car coming towards them, both of them were surprised. They looked at each other and flew a distance to the side to continue talking. Tian didn't lean over again. Instead, he stopped the cart where they were standing just now. Then he arched at the two and said, "Two Taoist friends, what's the latest news over there?" The two friars looked at Tian for a while, and then looked at the beautiful carriage pulled by the black leopard monster. They seemed very reluctant to arch their hands to Tian, and their eyes began to move. At this time, Tian's realm was the golden elixir realm, but it was obvious that the monster pulling the cart was a fifth-order monster, and also a monster in the later stage of the fifth order, even stronger than the two monks. In this case, there are only two possibilities. One is the owner of the black leopard sitting in the carriage. The latter is the chariot-like monk in Jindan Kingdom who recognized the owner of the black leopard earlier. After the brand of soul, the cultivation of the black leopard improved faster than its owner. Only when the master of the black leopard surpassed the master of the black leopard, the situation of the low realm monk commanding the high realm monk appeared. In their opinion, the former is more likely. Tian is just the cultivation of the golden elixir realm, but it is rare for them to be commensurate with their Taoist friends, unless they have great background or high seniority, which can no longer be scheduled by cultivation. In a flash, both of them had such a guess in their hearts. Without knowing who was in the cart, they naturally would not easily get along with others in some minor matters. "Ah, Taoist friend, I also heard that Songming order might erupt ahead of time, so I came here to have a look. But I just got here, and I don't know what's going on there." One of them, wearing a blue bubble, answered with a clasp. "The same is true for me. When Sun came here to meet my old friend and chat for a while." Another monk in a white robe said later. "In that case, thank you very much. See you later," Tian said, driving the panther car away from the spot. "Master, we haven't got any more information. Shall we leave?" Flying out of a distance, Tian sends out a message to Tian in the car. Just now, it was Tian who asked him not to ask again. Tian's voice came from the carriage. "I have already known about it. No matter how many things I can't ask, I can naturally know whether the news is true or false all the way. By the way, Tian, do you know the specific location of Tsung Underworld from the memory of that monk of Hujiahua up to now? Tian doesn't know the specific location of Tsungming realm. It's also because this secret place, which is only opened once every 1,000 years, is quite mysterious. Some low-level monks naturally don't care about this kind of thing. But Hu Dongxing of the Hu family is the cultivation of Yuanying realm. Maybe he can know something about Sangming realm?" Tian said with a bitter smile, "Master, the old slave wanted to talk about it to his master before, but the master told him not to mention that Sangming world, but to talk about the Zhengyang flame directly." So? The old slave thought that the master knew it clearly, so he didn't have to say anything. From the soul searching of the monk in Yuanying realm of the Hu family, we know that the Songming kingdom is really in the south, only 100,000 li away from the wilderness where the barbarians live. Tian nodded slightly. "I see, I didn't expect it to be so clever." Originally, Tian was prepared to try to enter the Songming kingdom if time permits, but he didn't want to fight for Songming order when it erupted. Because in order to participate in the competition, we need to obtain the quota, which will take up a lot of time. He was planning to ask Duan's family for a Songming order when the Songming world opened. After all, the Sangming order will emit thousands of numbers. Even if he wants to get one through other ways, it's not difficult. But now, Sangming kingdom is just where he must go, and it may erupt ahead of time. Tian's mind can't help activating, but he naturally won't listen to what he believes. He has to wait until he understands the situation. The chariot flies fast in the sky. Although Tian suppresses the speed of the panther according to Tian's idea, he sometimes surpasses some chariots or friars who drive by the sword, but sometimes he is overtaken by chariots and friars. The difference in speed makes overtaking and being overtaken the norm on the road. However, Tian's panther cart is mixed with many monks on the road, which is not so eye-catching, and there are no accidents along the way. When the animal car flew to the 5th day, Xianrun had to slow down and finally stopped. In front of them, there were no friars rushing forward anymore. Instead, many friars in front of the panther stopped. It seemed that an invisible boundary stopped them, and they lined up at the edge of the boundary, but no one rushed across the boundary. Xianrun, go and ask, what happened? The Leaf Day in the carriage is refining the medicine power in the Dan field at the same time to Xianrun to spread a voice to say. Xianrun answered and slowly drove the black leopard chariot. He approached a monk in Jindanjing who was also driving the flying horse monster and asked, Daoyu, what happened in front of you? Why don't you go? The friar, who was driving the flying horse chariot, was dressed in blue, with a sword on his back. His eyes were bright, which did not match the identity of the driver at all. In other words, he was a very smart person, and should not be reduced to driving for others for some fairy jade. And Tian clearly saw the word Langya on the beast car. No doubt, the car was rented from Langya Animal Car Company under the name of Dikuan Gate. Tian has been to Langya Animal Car Shop. He knows that every city has a branch of the car shop, which also says Langya. It doesn't mean that it's rented from Heiyun City. The man glanced at Xianrun and the beast cart with a cool look and said, It seems that Daoyu are not the person of the 8 sects? Haha, you are joking. How can the disciples of the 8 sects look like this? We are from a small family. Xianrun answers with a smile. Along the way, Tian naturally confesses his disguised identity to Xianrun. The man didn't doubt that Xianrun's words were adulterated. Hearing the words, he just said with a smile, That's no wonder that the 8 sects in front of him have sealed their way. Those who don't have the order to enter the boundary are not allowed to go any further, otherwise they will be enemies with the 8 sects, so no one dares to go any further. Xianrun frowned slightly and asked, Daoyu, is it more than 20,000 li away from Sangming? Why did the 8 great sects close their roads here? What's more, they are not allowed to pass if there are people who are on their way here. The friar laughed and said, I admit that what you said is very reasonable, and it is true. However, in front of the 8 sects, there is no reason to say. They won't let them in. If they don't have the entry card, who dares to enter? There are great friars in Yupu Kingdom. Anyone who wants to enter without permission will be punished. Moreover, even if there are entry cards, we need to consider carefully whether we want to go in or not. How do you say that? Xianrun in order to give Tian Duo some information, although the heart has a guess, but still ask. The friar laughed again, Daoyu rushed here in a hurry, can't you know nothing about it? All the entry cards for Sangming order were issued by the 8 sects together. A total of 670 entry cards were issued. The 8 sects accounted for 400, while the other 27 great monks in Yupu Kingdom accounted for only 270. It said that the 8 clans are not satisfied with the 400 entry cards, and they have taken the entry cards of the other 27 forces. It can be said that the entry cards are basically in the hands of the 8 clans, and there are few outside the control of the 8 clans. Besides, it must be a bloody battle when fighting for Sangming order. If it's not a disciple of the 8 sects, who dares to enter the same 8 sects to fight for Sangming order? In this way, isn't there going to be a bloody competition among the 8 sects? Xianrun pondered. The coachman of Jindanjing laughed and shook his head, this is not something that people need to worry about. The 8 sects have always been intriguing. Maybe Sangming Kingdom is their game field. Xianrun showed a helpless expression and laughed, what Daoyu said is the same, but does the Sangming Kingdom start to erupt Sangming order now? Do you know? The coachman of Jindanjing held out his hand, I don't know about this. I haven't even seen the shadow of Sangming Kingdom up to now. Look. Someone's in there. With these words, the coachman of Jindan Kingdom pointed to the sky in the distance. Sure enough, a group of shadows crossed the boundary and flew into the forbidden area designated by the 8 patriarchal clan. Tian naturally heard the conversation between Xianrun and this man clearly. At this time, he withdrew his eyes from each other's car and looked into the distance. He saw that there were more than 80 friars in the group, all dressed in the same uniform, with a bright red flame embroidered on his chest. It turned out to be a monk of Lihuozong. Seeing the signature embroidery on the white robe, Tian immediately knew the origin of these people. Lihuozong belongs to one of the 8 sections. The normal quota for participating in Sangming order is 50 people, that is to say, there should be 50 entry cards. But now there are more than 80 people on the other side swaggering into the blockade area. It is obvious that like Zhengyang Palace and Taemin, they also snatched some quota from other forces. Sure enough, they are all birds of a feather. Tian takes back his eyes with disgust. However, when his eyes no doubt see somewhere in the sky, his eyes suddenly coagulate and he can't help squinting. What he saw was a tiny black spot, a slowly moving black spot in the sky. With Tian's knowledge, he naturally knew that it was a big bird flying in the sky, but it was too far from the ground that it appeared to be a small black spot. There are birds in the sky, even large birds are very normal things, absolutely not enough to make Tian produce such a violent reaction, but Tianyuan's eyes shine through. When he looked carefully, he found that it was not an ordinary bird, but a golden eye statue. Tian is very familiar with the golden eye god carving. In the Shenron Spirit Beast Ring, there is a 5-step one, which was captured by the great friars of the Holy Wing clan in the Longsong Spirit Realm. At that time, he and Xuanxia stealth killed the Xuanxia branch of Tiger Leaping Gorge. It was this golden eye god carving that broke their invisibility. At this time, he saw the figure of the golden eye god carving again here, which made Tian have a lot of associations. This situation is very similar to that in Longsong Spirit Realm. Although he had already changed his appearance and the carriage that could prevent the detection of his mind, the golden eyes had the same magical power as the heavenly eyes. The carriage could not stop his eyes, but he did not know whether he could see through his own transformation. Xianrun, don't ask any more. Move forward and get in front of the crowd. Thinking of the magic power of the golden eye god carving, Tian rushed to send a message to Xianrun. Xianrun greets the coachman and drives the panther to fly forward. When the car starts, Tian can't help looking at the car driven by the coachman of Jindan Realm through the 2-story carriage. There is a very beautiful nun sitting in it, who is also the cultivation of Jindan Realm. But he has reached the peak of Jindan Realm and almost touched the threshold of Yuanying Realm. I don't know why, Tian always feels that this woman has something unusual, but he can't find out what's wrong. Is it just an illusion? Just as she was observing, the girl in the car, whether intentionally or unintentionally, looked at Tian. Her slender willow eyebrows wrinkled slightly, which was pretty. Tian quickly takes back his eyes and turns to look away. Although there is no substantial evidence, he can be sure that the beautiful woman must find that she is looking at her. In particular, the eloquent coachman of Jindanjing also appeared to be very unusual. Tianxin couldn't help but be more alert. Xianrun, look up at the sky. At this time, Tian doesn't care about the woman. After all, he is looking for someone else instead of himself. Even if there is something strange, it may not be aimed at him. He is more concerned about the golden eye statue in the sky. If this sculpture finds its own whereabouts and is pursued by the great friar of Yupu realm, even if it can escape, I'm afraid it will be very embarrassed. Hearing what Tian said, Xianrun glanced up at the sky, then carefully released his divine idea, explored the moving black spots in the sky, then took back his eyes and divine idea as if nothing had happened, and whispered to Tian, "Master, it's a 4th-order golden eye statue. Does the master suspect that this statue has something to do with you? It's mostly about me. You're always on the lookout and ready to improvise." Tianyu looks around and becomes more cautious. At this time, he is no longer suitable to retreat or turn to other places, because everyone is watching in the same place, and some people come here from the north. Once they move, the goal will be obvious. A moment later, Tian's heart just put down a little bit. The black spot is still hovering back and forth in the sky, far and near. There is no abnormal action. With the passage of time, the number of monks in carts gradually increased. Tian's panther carts were not very conspicuous among all kinds of carts, and even the nearby monks didn't pay much attention to them. At this time, on a mountain 10,000 miles away from Tian's location, Jun Wuzheng is sitting on a rock with his knees crossed. There are 5 monks standing by him. "Jun Laozu, we've all arranged for it. The 5 golden eye eagles have been spread out. Unless the one surnamed G steals through the void, he will not escape the search of the Golden Eye Eagles. One of them, a middle-aged monk with a black beard, wearing a blue gown and a jade hairpin, is reporting to Jun Wuzheng. Jun Wuzheng's eyes were closed, and he seemed to be listening carelessly. Hearing the words, he nodded and said in a calm voice, "You don't have to worry about things in the void. What you want to explore is below the void. With so much power from the clan, you must not lose." The friar with black beard gave a firm smile. "Don't worry, Mr. Jun, unless Yi Tian doesn't pass in this direction, it's absolutely hard to escape our tracking. This time, we'll try our best to win the one with the surname of Yi." What else can Qingyun sect stand in the 8 sections? It's just that Sangming Kingdom is about to erupt. The false news of Sangming's order has been released, and some people with entry cards have come in. What should we do? Jun Wuzheng raised his eyelids slightly and looked at the black-bearded monk. Then he closed his eyes again, with a dissatisfied look on his face. "Thank you, you are still the elder of Qingyun sect. Do you have to be taught how to do these little things?" King Yunzong came here just after hearing the news. Everything should be done according to the real situation. However, we should pay special attention to checking the identity of those monks with the entry card, so as to prevent those surnamed Yi from mixing in. Those of them are willing to wait, just wait outside the boundary of Sangming. Later they will arrange their disciples to go there. Their task is still to trace Yi Tian, but they should keep quiet and not be seen by others. "Yes, I'll arrange it now." The Blackbeard monk answered and flew away. You should pay close attention to those friars who are stopped, especially the people in the carts, or other friars who change their appearance, as well as the carts that have abnormal reactions or return halfway. In a word, they can only be 100 secrets. The other 2 ancestors are intercepting everywhere. Yi Tian is sure that he can't fly, but he should also search his whereabouts as soon as possible, so as not to be taken the lead by other clans. I get the news that Taemin and the ancestor of Zhengyang Palace are also sending people to search for this person. Let's act according to the circumstances. Jun Wuzheng said to the others. "Yes, Mr. Jun, we'll do it now." The men nodded in unison. One of them took out the messenger. After the manna, he quickly said, "All the monks or animal chariots returning from the south to the north should be closely checked. The Golden Eye God Eagle should expand the search scope and report the target in time." After that, the messages were turned into burning flames and burned. After sending the messenger, the bodies of several King Yunzong turned into light and left in a hurry. What happened thousands of miles away, Yi Tian naturally didn't know. At this time, he was still observing the surrounding situation and thinking about countermeasures. The appearance of the Golden Eye statue is absolutely unexpected to him. Whether now or in the future, if he escapes the pursuit of Qingyun sect, Taemin and Zhengyang Palace, the Golden Eye statue must be removed, or there will be more dangerous factors. But the problem is, how to get rid of it. The Golden Eye statue must always be under the divine observation of its owner. Once there is any abnormal situation, it will be found. It is absolutely difficult to get rid of it unconsciously. And once the attack fails, he will lose the chance to attack again, and the other side will certainly strengthen the prevention, and Yi Tian does not want to pay too much for such a Golden Eye Eagle. If Yi Tian knew that there were 5 Golden Eye Eagles in Qingyun sect, he would scratch his head even more. Just as Yi Tian stares at the small black spot moving back and forth in the sky through the carriage, his face looks like water. Suddenly there is a commotion in the rear. "Master, it seems that the situation is not right." Outside the carriage, Shenron's voice was heard. "Be ready to respond," Yi Tian said in a hurry, and then paid attention to the situation in the rear. The source of the commotion was dozens of friars who had been mixed in the crowd. At this time, they had removed their clothes and revealed the black clothes with the pattern of white clouds of Qingyun sect. Then they scattered and acted faintly. "Dear Taoists, we have got accurate information. There is a ghost monk in the ghost world who disguises himself as a Terran monk and tries to sneak into the Tsangming world. Under the order of the 8 Sects Alliance, he specially comes here to confirm the identity of your Terran monks. If there are Taoists who use metaphysics, please change back to the original appearance. If you can hide your true colors, the 8 Sects Alliance will take away the soul-searching interrogation. If you refuse to cooperate or resist, no mercy. All people are not allowed to fly at will now, otherwise they will be attacked according to the practice of the ghost world. At this time, a leading monk of Washinjing said in a loud voice. The voice spread far away, resounding in all directions, very arrogant and overbearing. As soon as he finished speaking, half of the dozens of monks who were all the practitioners of transforming the divine realm flew up into the sky, with hawk-like eyes, while the other half began to check the monks and the animal carts. In this case, 3 monks who had used the transforming technique really recovered their true colors. One by one, the prohibition of the animal car was lifted, and the curtain of the car was lifted, revealing the monks who were riding inside and accepting the inspection of the monk of Qingyun sect. Under the pressure of the big hat of the 8 sects alliance, although the monks showed dissatisfaction, no one dared to refuse to accept the examination. The friars outside the blockade line stretch far to both sides, and there is no end to both sides. But in the front and back direction, because of the inherent vigilance of the friars, the distance between them is not very close, and the so-called density is only relative, so the distance is sparse. Now the direction of the other party's inspection is still some distance away from Yi Tian's position, but even if it is further away, it will eventually be here. Xianran sees that as the inspection continues, the people of Qingyanzong are getting closer to here, and his face shows a worried look. Master, their people are very strict in the sky. If they leave now, they will definitely become the focus of inspection, and even they will do it directly. If there is no other good way, when the inspection arrives here, the owner can be invisible ahead of time. After thinking about it, Xianran sends out a message to Yi Tian. Originally, he wanted to let Yi Tian enter his spirit beast ring or magic weapon cave, but he finally refrained from saying so. He knew in his heart that he had been double-faced several times, and it was very difficult for Yi Tian to know that he really wanted to take refuge. In fact, Yi Tian tried several times, and gradually gave himself some power, including driving thousands of monsters and using Tian Luonet. If you make such a proposal, the host may not agree with it, but may be more wary, which will further divide the trust that has been established. Don't panic. They can't get here yet. Just listen to me at any time. Yi Tian lightly responded, and continued to pay attention to the situation of the search there. When checking here, there are animal carts and monks coming in the distance. Originally, Yi Tian didn't pay attention to who they were. But when he inadvertently glanced at them, his eyes were different from before. Yi Tian has seen a group of monks who have just arrived. They are all monks of Tai sect. A few days ago, they were all banned by the 3rd ancestor of Qingyun sect. It seems that they don't know what's holding them up until now. Seeing these people, Yi Tian's face shows the color of pondering. Yuan Tian's eyes shine all around, but he doesn't find any other forbidden classmates. Taya Mendoyu? This place has been blocked. No one is allowed to enter the blockade line without the entry card. A monk of Qingyun sect recognized the identity of the man and stopped the 10 monks. Tai sect and Qingyun sect are among the 8 sects in Taimanlingyu. Their strength is almost the same. The things here immediately attract the attention of the nearby monks. Qingyun sect dares to stop Tai sect. I'm afraid there will be a good play next. When those people had the idea of watching the scene, they did not expect that these Tai monks were very low-key. They did not return the color, but one of them said very humbly, Taoist friends of Qingyun sect, we are looking for the emperor. If you have something to discuss, please let us go. When he spoke, the man's brow did not wrinkle slightly, and his face showed the color of pain. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian frowns and looks at other Tianaiman's incarnations, but finds that they are the same. Is it because of the prohibition in their bodies that they are so anxious to find you? With such a guess, Yi Tian can't help but show his eyes to one of the monks. When Jun Wujing banned those people, Yi Tian only saw a flash of gold. As for the prohibition, he didn't care too much. But now, Yi Tian will not miss the chance to get in touch with Taiman monks so closely. After counting the breath, he shifted his eyes from this monk and continued to look at another monk, then saw the 3rd monk. When he finished watching the 3rd monk, Yi Tian took back his eyes, and his face showed the color of meditation. Then, he made a gesture, and his Xiumi ring appeared in his hand, and then the divine idea came into it. After a while, 2 yellow-brown fruits appeared in his hand. With a little play in his hand, Tian crushed one of them decisively, and a faint fragrance immediately came out from the fruit. Then Tian opened a gap in the car curtain, and with a little magic power, a faint and untraceable breeze swept the aroma of the fruit to the direction of those Tai monks. Just when the fragrance was just diffused in front of Taiman monk, a Taiman monk who was closest to the fragrance suddenly howled miserably, covered his abdomen and fell to the ground. Then there's the second, the third stopped the attack. Report to the ancestors quickly. The third monk called out when he fell down quickly. A monk who was a little far away changed his face and immediately took out a message. After the mana was activated, the message turned into a flame. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly changed his face and showed a look of extreme pain. His body arched up and fell unsteadily to the ground. In the process of falling, he tried his best to endure the pain in his stomach, and cried out to the messenger, "Help me, Lao Zu. We are forbidden by Qingyun Zongju and Wuzheng, and our lives are not guaranteed." In a word, it can be said that the man could not control his body shape. He suddenly accelerated his fall and hit the ground like a stone. Almost in this little time, the other remaining Tai monks also fell to the ground with painful expression. This sudden change, not only the surrounding monks feel some inexplicable, so even the monks of Qingyun sect are also surprised. But everyone heard what Taiman friar said. Junwazing of Qingyun sect banned Taiman friars from being vicious. At this time, the prohibition had already taken place. It seems that more than a dozen Taiman friars in the realm of transforming spirit have already been on the verge of death. Those people felt vaguely that something big might happen next. In the black leopard chariot, the creator. Tian's face is calm, and the other complete yellow-brown fruit in his hand, together with another crushed fruit, has disappeared. There was a light blue flame around his fingers. Under the burning of the flame, the aroma of the fruit on his hands gradually faded, and finally disappeared completely. At the shaft of the car, Xianrun's eyes flashed with surprise. He glanced at the carriage and focused on the monks who fell to the ground. From cultivation to the realm of transforming the gods, the bodies of monks are extremely strong, nourished by aura for a long time. Although they fall from the sky, they may not be able to take their lives. The same is true of these Taiman monks, but although they didn't fall to death, they kept rolling on the ground with their abdomens in their arms. The painful expression on their faces was extremely obvious, their facial features had been twisted, and black blood was pouring out of the corners of their mouths. But the specific reason for them to become what they are now, Xianrun is confused. He faintly feels that this situation of the other party must have something to do with the fragrance made by Tian. At that time, he was closest to Tian. Although the fragrance was not very strong, or even very light, he still felt it clearly. Then something changed happened to Tai monk. While Xianrun was guessing, almost at the same time, 3 aura ripples appeared in the sky, and then 3 great friars came out of it. One of them is Jun Wuzheng, the third ancestor of Qingyun sect, while the other 2 are Gu Laozu and Li Laozu of Tai sect. As soon as they appeared, they all took a glance at the dozens of dying Tai monks underground. Jun Wuzheng, please lift the ban immediately and save our children, and then we'll settle the account. Taking back his eyes, Ji Leagui pointed to the ground and said with an iron face. 2 Taoist friends, there must be something wrong inside. I'll go down here and have a look. You don't have a positive color is also very ugly, a word finished, sniffed, body shape as a flash, already fell on the ground, closed his eyes after a moment, suddenly opened his eyes coldly swept around the crowd, the eyes as if killing people in general, people shudder. At this time, Ji Leagui also fell on one of his disciples. He bent down and pressed a few times between his chest and abdomen. He found that this disciple had fallen, and so did other disciples. In a moment, he was separated from him. Suddenly stand up, Gould strange voice coldly said, Jun Wuzheng, you deceive people too much. While speaking, Ji Leagui's hand power moved, and a flying sword shot out and chopped at Ju Wuzheng. Seeing that he was also in a violent shape, he drew a virtual shadow and clapped his palm on a nearby disciple of Qingyun sect. He was caught off guard and was suddenly attacked by a great monk. As soon as he was about to dodge, the palm of his hand had changed to the size of a wheel and was under the hood. Pang! With a dull sound, Li Leagui clapped his hand. This man directly turned into a cloud of flesh and blood and splashed everywhere. A living monk who had just been living in Washinjing fell, and even Yuanying turned into powder. From this, we can see how angry the old man was. So the great friar of Yupujing didn't say a word and started to fight. Many onlookers around him retreated in a hurry, fearing that the gods would fight and the kids would suffer, so they avoided far away. For a moment, the scene was in chaos. After Li Leagui killed a monk of Qingyun sect, his momentum exploded again, and he angrily attacked another monk of Qingyun sect again. Two Taoist friends, it's really a misunderstanding. We've been calculated. My ban was triggered ahead of time. Jun Wuzheng saw that another disciple of his own clan died in the hands of Li Leagui. He quickly gave a big drink and wanted to get rid of Gu Leagui and stop Li Leagui. He was just a great friar in the early stage of Yupu realm, but Gu Leagui had already entered the middle stage of Yupu realm, and he was already left behind and right behind. Now he was distracted, and Gu Leagui's sharp sword was fast like lightning again. He dodged in a hurry, but this sword was so powerful that he didn't even have time to perform the big move. Then Gu Leagui's sword cut a blood hole from his rib. Although this sword didn't hurt the vital part, Jun Wuzheng, who was already in a weak position, lost a lot of fighting power. He gritted his teeth to get rid of another sword that Ge Leagui attacked again, and his figure had reached a very far distance. Even if it's a misunderstanding, I'll kill more than 10 of your disciples, and then talk about the misunderstanding. Gu Leagui didn't pursue Jun Wuzheng, but together with Li Leagui, he killed the disciples of Qingyun sect. He came to a monk of Qingyun sect who had escaped 7 or 8 miles. The sword light flashed, and he had been hanged thoroughly in the dazzling white light. Then his figure flashed again, and he caught up with another monk of Qingyun sect. Poof! With a dull sound, the man's head had been smashed by him. Gu Leagui knew in his heart that it was not easy to kill Jun Wuzheng completely. Seeing that more than a dozen monks of Tai's sect had lost their power, he naturally wanted to kill the monks of Qingyun sect and weaken their strength. Just when the two Taiyiman old monsters were very fierce, 2 aura ripples suddenly appeared in the air. Almost at the same time, 2 of them came out of the force. One of them was an old woman with silver hair, and her face was full of wrinkles. The other was short, but her head was a little bigger than that of the monk Chang. Ga Yuanhong, Li Tianda, stop. As soon as the 2 men appeared, the old woman's momentum burst out, and her white robe swelled up. She gave a loud drink and slapped her hand. A powerful magic force rushed to Ge Leagui, who was chasing a disciple of Qingyun sect. This old woman is the great ancestor of Qingyun sect. She is also the middle-term cultivator of Yupu realm. She is on a par with Ge Leagui. Gu Leagui's attack was blocked and his anger broke out again. As soon as he pinched his finger, the flying sword in the air flashed cold and fell down on her. The small second ancestor of Qingyun sect also fought with Li Leagui at this time. Both of them were the early cultivation of Yupu realm. They matched each other and used different methods to fight with danger. Within 100 zhang radius, the shadow of the sword is vertical and horizontal, the magic power is booming, and the momentum is extremely huge. Originally, many friars and animal carts nearby were far away from the dangerous area here. The farthest one had already left 100 miles away, while Yi Tian's black leopard animal carts were not far away, and they had avoided dozens of miles away. Master, did you do it? Xinyan feels the fierce struggle between the two sections. Xianran sends out Xinyan message to Yi Tian. Yes, damn it, if you want to chase me Yi Tian, you must give them some color to see. Yi Tian made a cold sound. Xianran said with a smile, I know it's the master. Now what shall we do? Now don't do anything. Although the ancestors of the two sects worked together, you didn't find that old Jun suddenly disappeared. Although he was hurt a little, it was definitely not a big problem for the great friar of Yupujing. He was sure that Fengdan was hiding in the dark, looking for the man who did the trick, that is, your master, me. We can't let him find it, don't give them two sects the chance to clear up the misunderstanding, wait for them to make a result. Yi Tian's lips covered the battlefield with cold smile. At this time, the monks who covered the fighting scene were not only the 2 of them. Many of the monks who escaped to the distance released their minds and watched this rare summit duel. The 4 great friars on both sides seemed to have made a real fire. they were all in a desperate posture. Several peaks on the ground were almost flattened by the powerful magic power. The rocks were falling and the smoke was filled with dust. Sometimes they only heard the sound of fighting, and even could not see each other completely. Master! Zhun Legui. While watching the battle, Shenrun's voice came into Yi Tian's ears with a little panic. Yi Tian is not only concerned about the battlefield, Shenrun said Zhu Leigui, he has also noticed that Zhu Leigui suddenly appeared from the sky, regardless of the fight on the other side, but straight to Yi Tian. So there was Shenrun's exclamation. Don't panic. What's so terrible? You have Tian Luonet, Yi has the power of Suihuang. What are you afraid of? The Leaf Day disdains to sneer, a cold voice to say. The master is heroic. The master is mighty. Yi Tian blows 2 words at will. Shenrun is like taking a dose of calming pill. His face immediately recovers calm, and he doesn't worry anymore. The master once successively killed 2 big friars in Yupujing, a middle friar in Yupujing who was injured. What's so terrible? He not only put away his fear, but calmly looked in the direction of Zhun Leigui's flying. The idea had already locked the Tian Luonet in Shumi commandment, and he wanted to show his hand in front of Yi Tian. Even if it didn't work out, Yi Tian was here to give him a tip. During the flight, Zhun Wuzheng's face was very blue. At this time, he had a gray gown on his body, and even the bloody scar could not be seen. Besides his ugly face, he could not see that this man was beheaded by a senior monk not long ago. As he flew, his eyes crossed a beast car. Even Yi Tian's panther car, he also looked at it. Zhun Wuzheng is getting closer and closer, and Shenrun, who has been locked in Tian Luonet by his mind, is ready to attack suddenly at any time. Not only Shenrun, in this direction, all the friar's eyes are like a light tracing lamp, following Zhun Wuzheng's figure, feeling the murderous spirit of this man, and they are uneasy. Qingyun Zunsan's figure is getting closer and closer. At a certain moment, his figure suddenly accelerates, and his right hand suddenly pats down. A ripple like golden mana wave immediately comes out, like a gold cake with waves, and suddenly pats at a beast cart. Seeing such a situation, Yi Tian's eyes showed a thoughtful color. He is very familiar with that animal car, not someone else's animal car. It is the animal car that Shenrun once accosted to inquire about the blocked information in this area. At the beginning, Yi Tian's black leopard chariot was closer to that chariot. However, after King Yanzong and Taiyiman's 4 strong men started, they retreated respectively. The 2 chariots just retreated to the same direction and came here. The distance between them was only 20 zhang. Sure enough, that car is weird. Yi Tian believed that he would never be aimless when he was practicing without justice. At this time, he took out his anger at ordinary monks. Moreover, at the beginning, Yi Tian also felt that the beautiful nun in the carriage was a little strange, but he couldn't explain why. The black leopard chariot, like other chariots, retreated suddenly when Zhun suddenly took the hand, avoiding the scope of Zhun attack. However, the attacked beast car exploded before it was hit by the golden pie, which was full of terrifying magic power. In the crash of the broken parts of the carriage, a dark shadow rose to the sky. With a single palm, it patted the terrible golden cake and flew away. Then it gave out a smile, and the dark shadow flashed away into the distance. Jun Wu's body stagnated. He didn't think it was like this. He hesitated a little and glanced at the coachman. As the carriage flew up, his arm suddenly rose and grabbed the coachman. Unexpectedly, the coachman also gave out a long smile. Suddenly, a thick black air burst out around him and exploded around him. In the black smoke, Zhun Wuzheng, a great friar in Yupu, grabbed the air and lost the driver's figure. Jun Wu's body suddenly disappeared, but he didn't know where he had gone. Just appeared the black smoke diffuses, the line of sight gradually clear, here soon restored calm. No one was near this area, there was no great war, but there was a strange area everywhere. On the contrary, everyone stepped back a certain distance and avoided here. The smoke was gone, and the coachman was still missing. The 4th-step black horse, together with the debris of the carriage, had already fallen to the ground in a black gas explosion. As if there had never been such an animal car. I see. The leaf day in the black leopard animal car suddenly in the eye bright color a flash, muttered to oneself. Xianrun looked back, wanted to ask what, but finally did not ask out. Ga Yuanhong, you can see that there is another person who initiated the prohibition. You fool, you have been cheated by others. Don't you know it? At this time, among the 4 strong men in the fight, the wrinkled old woman, the great ancestor of Qingyun sect, began to drink hysterically. Her voice was extremely sharp, as if sharp objects rubbed violently, piercing people's eardrum. Old beggar, don't try to be unreasonable and shirk responsibility. If Jun Wuzheng didn't ban our disciples, even if someone obstructed them, how could so many elite disciples die? What's more, who can prove that it was done by others? Is that the scene? If it's tolerable, who can't bear it? Taemin won't give justice to their disciples. Today, they will be removed from the 8 sects. Gu Leigui drank coldly in his voice, as if he thought that the death of his disciple had nothing to do with others. He still poured all his magic power and launched a terrorist attack on the old woman. On the other side, the same is true. Li Leigui also kills the big head and short ancestor. He looks like he will never die. Moreover, with the fierce fighting between the 2 sides, the battlefield expanded more and more, and the 2 groups of Yupu monks gradually separated and occupied a piece of the world. The expansion of the battlefield forced the monks around to retreat quickly, and some even gave up the difficult summit duel and began to turn their direction, fly northward and leave this place of right and wrong. Yi Tian's panther chariot is surrounded by many chariots, and he also withdraws northward. In such a messy scene, his chariot is not conspicuous. In the chaos, Yi Tianyuan's eyes shone through the carriage and saw clearly the situation in all directions. At a certain moment, his distant eyes suddenly coagulated, and then his mind moved, calling out a 4th-order shadowless snake. Then, he took out the yellow-brown fruit from Shumi ring. He took some juice and smeared it on the shadowless snake. Then his hand was loosened and the shadowless snake disappeared from the carriage. The shadowless snake flies without the slightest fluctuation of mana, even without the sound of breaking the wind. In the chaos, it moves quickly from the gap between the beast cart and the monk. 6 or 7 miles away, nearly 20 monks of Tai sect are flying to the south from afar. All of them have a painful expression on their faces, as if they are suffering from some unbearable suffering. Maybe other friars don't know what's going on, but Yi Tian, who always stares at these friars through the carriage, knows very well that these friars were all the people who had been forbidden by Junwu. For some reason, they didn't arrive here until now, and they were divided into 2 groups with those who died before. Sanli Tu Li 1 mile shadowless snake with a light aroma of yellow-brown fruit, quickly close to those friars, see is about to arrive at each other's near. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the sky, and then Jun Wuzheng came out of it. As soon as he appeared, he suddenly narrowed his pupils, smelled the faint and strange aroma, looked down, and suddenly saw those monks who had been forbidden by himself. As soon as he moved, he shot at the people. At this time, the shadowless snake had come close to those people, circled a little in front of them, and quickly fled into the middle of the disordered animal cart and the friars. Dare, dare! Jun Wuzheng, who was flying down, saw a flash of fierce light in his eyes and burst out a powerful momentum to chase the shadowless snake. At this time, nearly 20 Tai monks in the light fragrance brought by the shadowless snake suddenly felt a sharp pain in their bodies. They couldn't bear it, as if they had been cut into all the viscera, or even could not mobilize their mana. One by one, they lost control, curled up, twisted their faces and fell to the ground. You have no justice. Seeing this, a strange old Gus suddenly gave up the fight against the old woman of Qingyun sect. She shot at Yu Wuzheng. When she was still in the air, the golden flying sword in her hand sent out huge golden sword shadows one after another. With the terrible power, she fell down on Yu Wuzheng continuously. Jun Wuzheng has long lost his calm and elegant demeanor. In the face of the huge golden sword shadow falling one after another, he quickly cuts left and right with his sword in both hands and smashes it. Every time the flying sword collides with the golden sword shadow is suddenly broken and becomes countless pieces of gold debris, which slowly dissipates in the sky. But at the same time, every time Jun Wuzheng's flying sword collides with the golden sword shadow, his body will be forced to fall down for a certain distance, and a mouthful of blood will come out of his mouth. After taking over more than 10 golden sword shadows from Leagway, Jun Wujing also spat out more than 10 mouthfuls of blood. The grey robe on his chest was dyed bright red, and even his hair became a little grey, and his body was forced to fall on the ground. Leagway. You have no anger to attack heart, in the mouth a big drink, the words behind haven't had time to say, he holds the flying sword to rise up to greet, blocked a golden sword shadow that falls again. Ka! With a slight sound, you feel a sharp pain in your arm. The bone of your arm is broken under the terrible power of sword shadow. Well. Jun Wujing spits out 2 words in his mouth, and his body flies backward. In the flight, a ripple of aura appears, and then his figure disappears in the ripple. Want to go? Leagway glanced at the more than 20 disciples of our sect who had fallen underground. With a roar, his feet and body disappeared. All this happened in a flash of lightning. The old woman, who had been fighting with Leagway before, arrived here at this time. When she saw that Leagway was seriously injured, she still didn't mean to let go. So she let out a shriek, and her figure disappeared from the original place. Hearing the howling of the great-grandfather, the little great-grandfather, who was fighting with the old Li monster, shakes out and follows the old woman away. Just now, it was the scene of the fierce battle of the Great Friar in Yupu realm. Suddenly, it quieted down, leaving only Leagway, who had lost his opponent. This man let go of his mind, pondered a little, and also used his great move skill, and lost his trace from high school. This time, it's really quiet here. At this time, Tian, who had retreated 100 miles away, pursed his lips tightly and looked at the golden eye eagle still flying in the sky. The killing in his eyes gradually became stronger. After counting the breath, Tianyun said a few words to Xianrun, who was in charge of the animal car. Xianrun nodded a little after listening to it. The black leopard suddenly accelerated its speed and fell to the ground. But between counting the breath, the leopard car had already fallen to the ground. The strong impact made the soil on the ground explode everywhere, and a cloud of dust filled the ground. When the dust spread, Xianrun sitting on the shaft suddenly disappeared. Just for a very short moment, Xianrun reappeared on the shaft and sat cross-legged, as if the disappearance was just an illusion. But only Xianrun and Tian know that Xianrun is no longer the original Xianrun, but Tian who uses Huarong. The real Xianrun has already used the hermit technique of the Xians, left the shaft of the car, and suspended beside the black leopard cart. However, Tian just slightly urged the 5 element beads, and then passed through the carriage and sat in the position where Xianrun was sitting before. 2 people cooperate perfectly, almost at the same time completed their own action, and the dust everywhere just happened to be like this scene. Go ahead and kill it as fast as you can. Tian sits on the shaft with his knees crossed, and says a word to Xianrun without raising his head. Yes, master. Xianrun promised to fly to the high altitude quickly. His figure flew higher and higher, farther and farther away from the ground. If he showed his figure at this time, from the position of Tian on the ground, it should be just a tiny black spot. The next moment, the 5th level golden eye statue in the ring of spirit beasts suddenly appears at Xianrun's feet, and then flies to the 4th level golden eye statue in the distance. Although the 5th level golden eye statue is large, it is still a small black spot from the ground. Moreover, the situation below is chaotic, and no one notices that there is a black spot in the sky. The distance of 100 li is just a huge wing for the 5th level golden eye eagle, which can be reached by a gliding action. Gaga! The 4th order golden eye eagle, gliding in the sky, seemed to find something different. Suddenly, it made a few calls, turned into a piece of blood fog, and scattered around. The Xianrun sword on the 5-level golden eye god carving was successful. The flying sword and the golden eye god carving were put away, and then quickly left here. After the 4th level golden eye god carving was killed, a human figure quickly fled to the nearby blood fog which had not completely dissipated. This is a middle-aged monk in a black robe. He has a hooked nose, thick black hair and 5 braids. This kind of dress is a bit nondescript. He feels the thick blood around him. His eyes are gloomy and he looks around. His long open mind also covers a wider range. After more than 10 breaths, his face became more gloomy, and his fingers rattled. Finally, he took out a few messengers, said a few words in a hurry, and sent them out. On the ground, Yi Tian takes back his mind as if nothing had happened, and his face shows the color of meditation. Then he uses Yuan Tian's eye to look at the sky again. The invisible Shenrun quickly appears in Yi Tian's line of sight, and falls on Yi Tian's side under his gaze. After a few words of conversation, Yi Tian gets up from the shaft and jumps to the ground. When he lands, he and Shenrun complete the role exchange again. Shenrun shows his figure and stretches on the ground, making a look of stretching his muscles and bones. At this time, Yi Tian has returned to the carriage with the help of the 5 element beads. Master, if we kill this golden eye carving, we can have a smooth passage. Next we can go south. While stretching, Shenrun sent out a voice of divine thoughts. Don't worry, wait a second. Yi Tian's voice came from the carriage. What's the problem, Master? Shenrun asked with some doubts. Of course, there is a problem. You can find out for yourself. Yi Tian said faintly. Hearing the words, Shenrun released his mind and spread it in all directions. At a certain moment, he frowned. Within the scope of his mind, he found that there were 2 more golden eye statues flying north from there. Soon he arrived at the place where the 4th level golden eye statues were killed and joined the man in black. The 2 golden eye statues are also in the 4th level. On the back of each golden eye statues, there is a black-robed friar sitting cross-legged, with pigtails on his head. This is the nest of the golden eye eagle. How can there be 2? Thanks to the master's alertness, otherwise he might be found on the way. Seeing this, Shenrun mumbled and said, maybe it's not just the 2 golden eye eagles. The 2 eagles can come here so quickly. They must be not far away. Qingyun sect's defensive area is definitely not so small. There must be golden eye eagles in other areas. Yi Tian said. What the master said seems reasonable. What should we do next? Shenrun took back his mind and asked. Yi Tian replied indifferently, the golden eye god carving is the natural enemy of the silver body. If you don't want to be in danger, there is no other way. No matter how many golden eye god eagles there are, as long as they appear in front of us, they will all be killed. Old slave, go now. Listen to Yi Tian say so, Shenrun says immediately. Wait. Seeing that Shenrun is so old and impulsive, Yi Tian stops his action in a hurry. It's necessary to do it, but it's not the right time. The man in black over there is a little strange. It seems that he is not a monk of Qingyun sect. I remember. Search the soul of Hu Dongsheng. There is a memory about a monk named Lingfei sect. The monks of this sect are dressed like this. They should be owned by Lingfei sect. It's a sect that is good at controlling demons and beasts. Because this kind of magical power belongs to the side door, there are no monks with too high realm in the sect. There are only less than 10 monks who transform the divine realm. What Yi Tian said reminds Shenrun that he suddenly reacts and says. So it is. Since they are not from Qingyun sect, they have come here to soak in the muddy water and visit my whereabouts with the golden eye statue. That's even more hateful. No matter what their origins are, they will be killed. Yi Tian nodded slightly and said indifferently. When Yi Tian and Shenrun are talking about the 2 4th-level golden eye eagles in the sky and the 3 friars in black, the 3 friars in black have already quarreled. Elder 5, you didn't see anyone do it? Asked a stout friar in black with 3 pigtails. The 5 elders in his mouth is the first monk in black who has 5 pigtails on his head. When he hears the other person's question, he can't help looking angry. Does the 3 elders mean that I'm incompetent and can't even guard a golden eye statue? The target is invisible. It's likely to be the target this time. Do you think I'm a golden eye eagle? Can I see invisible people? Why did Qingyun sect invite us here? Because the great friars of Yupu kingdom also can't see through the art of reclusion. The 3 elder with 3 braids looks even more ugly. Elder 5, you don't have to shirk your responsibility. What Qingyun sect says is clearly the invisible younger generation. He only has the cultivation of Longmen realm. How could it be him who did it this time? Can the monk in Longmen have the ability to kill the 4th-level golden eye eagle with one blow? 5 elder cold hum away. So, I suspect that the news of Qingyun sect is wrong, that invisible monk may not be true Longmen realm monk, is likely to be a Change God Realm monk. Even if it's a monk, what can he do? After all, it's just one. If you dare to kill Lingfaizon, I will make him pay a heavy price. Elder 2, I mean to go down and search immediately. Even if the other party is in the spirit realm, the three of us may not be afraid of him. The three elders said something and turned to look at the two elders who didn't speak, the black friar with 2 braids on his head. Elder 3, I advise you to be careful. Now Qingyun's sect has got into trouble. How to deal with the aftermath is still unknown. Moreover, the invisible friar also has a golden eye statue which may be level 5, which is not a good match. In my opinion, it's good to be perfunctory here. I can't stir this case in anymore. Without waiting for the second elder to speak, the fifth elder spoke first. Elder 5, do you mean that man has a 5-level golden eye statue? At this time, the two elders suddenly asked. That's right. It's a 5-step golden eye statue. I can't be wrong. Elder 5 nodded heavily. Good. The second elder said a good word, and then took out a message sign. As soon as the mana was slightly stimulated, the message sign immediately burned. Then, the second elder said to the fire, Elder, you should pay attention to guard. Here you find an invisible monk with a 5-level golden eye statue. The 4th-level golden eye statue of the 5th elder has been killed by him. In particular, we should focus on the friars with the spirit beast ring and the spirit beast bag. The flame on the messenger burned out and turned into a piece of fly ash. Don't argue anymore. The 5th-level golden eye god carving is a must for our sect. Let the other party be a monk in Longmen realm or Huashan realm. As long as it's not a monk in Yupu realm, we can completely destroy it. In this way, Qingyun's sect will pay another 10,000 pieces of fairy jade. The second elder seemed to have authority. After summoning, he said in a commanding tone. Then he waved his hand and drove the 4th-level golden eye statue under the seat to fly to the distance. The 3 elders and the 5 elders looked at each other, and they all wanted to talk and stop, but no one said anything. The 3 elders also urged the golden eye eagle to follow the 2 elders, but the 5 elders took out a flying sword and chased it. Shenrun, don't put the ring on your wrist anymore. They've come to look for someone. On the ground, Tian takes back his mind from the picture of clothes in his mind and speaks to Shenrun. Shenrun is afraid of the other party's detection, and does not dare to easily use the idea of exploration, but Tian's Liangxingkong does not have this concern, so through each other's lips, he has understood each other's conversation clearly. Since arriving here, he has quietly released 4 heartworms, 2 of which have been quietly flying south. He wants to see whether the so-called Sangning Kingdom erupted Sangning order in advance is true or not. Yes, Master. Get Tian's instruction. Shenrun takes the spirit beast ring off his wrist without any trace and puts it into his arms. He is more and more convinced of Tian's words. It must be reasonable for his master to command him like this. As for why Tian's accomplishments in the Dragon's Gate are more than his own information, he is no longer willing to think about it. The more he knows about Tian, the more he feels that Tian is more mysterious, as if he never knows how capable Tian is. There are many unimaginable cards. Who is the descendant of Sui Huang? Originally also quite proud Shenrun can only comfort himself like this. At this time, there were still a lot of monks around the Black Leopard chariot. Some of them left in the previous war, but most of them remained. In the following time, they came to some chariots and monks one after another. In this way, under the sky, a lot of friars occupy a large area. Sangning Kingdom is opened once 1,000 years, and Sangning makes it erupt once 1,000 years. This is an extremely rare chance. Among the friars here, there are many friars who want to get at Sangning order and get into Sangning Kingdom, even if they are just some of them, perhaps also looking for their own opportunities. Above the sky, 3 dark shadows came from the south, which immediately attracted the attention of many monks, especially 2 of them riding a big bird, looking very powerful. 3 elders are here to check, so as not to be sneaked by that man. I and 5 elders are looking for someone. Since they have come here, they will not give up easily, otherwise they will not do it easily. Be careful, don't be attacked by others. Looking at the numerous friars below, the second elder said. Understand, Elder 2, do you want to contact the people of Qin sect to act together? In this way, if you find that person, there are many helpers. The three elders asked tentatively. The second elder took a cold look at the third elder and warned, don't worry about it. We have to do it ourselves. Why do you think King Yunzong is so blatant in dealing with the boy named Tian? If there's any hatred, it's a cover-up. Do you think Qin sect is so humane? It's certain that Tian has something that the ancestors of Qin sect want to get. It's probably a very important treasure. As for what we don't know, once we catch this man, we will know everything after a little soul-searching. If it's really a rare treasure, we just need to leave it to Qin sect. Now Qin sect is seriously damaged and has some difficulties in self-protection. I dare not think about what Lingfei sect is like. I understand. Three elders smell speech, can't help a burst of heart, if not two elder point out this reason, he may not know the way inside. Thinking of the possible benefits, he couldn't help but cheer up. His mind was attached to the mind of the fourth-level golden eye statue, feeling the idea of the golden eye statue. Take your broken bird and go back to your Lingfei zone, or I will be rude to you. The second elder of Lingfei sect gradually lowered his flying height. His eyes were like falcons, sweeping the broad crowd in the beast car one by one. Suddenly, a voice sounded in his ear. The voice was low and hoarse. It sounded suddenly. It seemed that there was such a voice in all directions. It was so ethereal that the two elders could not find the direction of the voice for a moment. His eyes quickly swept around, everything seems to be the same as before, and did not find any suspicious friars. However, the second elder roughly delineated a range in his mind. He guessed that the voicemaker should be in this range. Of course, this range is very large and needs to be investigated for a period of time. Attention, the target is nearby, ready to move at any time. The second elder whispered a word to the five elder around him and continued to lower his flying altitude. Hearing that the five elder followed him closely, the whole person was in a tense state, and there was a terrible light in his eyes, as if he were a beast who chose people to eat. This state didn't last long. Suddenly, the golden eye eagle screamed a few times, and then the two elders' cheers came out. The feathers on the neck of the fourth-level golden eye god carving stand upright, as if seeing the enemy of life and death. The calls in the mouth are full of aggression. A pair of sharp eyes are staring at the friars next to an animal car below, and they dive down under the drive of the elder too. The five elders' flying sword breathed the cold sword under the mana, as if it would be a thunderbolt at the next moment. What's the matter? It was a chariot pulled by two deer and beasts. The carriage was closed tightly. A monk in the spirit realm near the chariot sensed the sudden change and looked at the sky doubtfully. His whole body mana burst out and was ready to fight at any time. The other three friars around him also broke out a powerful power of transforming the spirit. They stood on guard and protected the animal cart in the middle. A flying sword appeared in each person's hand. The same sword was breathing and flickering. This situation made the two elders and five elders in the sky slow down a little. At this time, a black shadow flew down from the sky. When they got close, they could see it was a majestic golden eye statue. There was a clear sound in the mouth of the carving. His feathers stood upside down. His eyes were fixed on the animal car, and he rushed down. One of the monks of Washinjing, who was beside the animal chariot, split out a sword light and cut it to the flying golden eye god carving. This carving is just the Xianrun 5-level golden eye god carving. At the flash of the sword light, he beat his wings, which are stronger than golden iron, and the powerful force beat on the sword body, which made the flying sword swing to the side. But his huge figure suddenly flew by in this moment. Two huge iron claws caught on the gorgeous carriage of deer and beast. With a bang, the originally very strong carriage exploded with this force, revealing a middle-aged beautiful woman sitting inside. With a successful strike, the 5-level golden eye statue rose to the sky. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared from everyone's view. However, the 4th-level golden eye statue under the seat of the second elder still has feathers, and its eyes emit fierce light and scream at the bottom. The sudden change made the elder 2 and elder 5 stunned for a moment. Then they saw the middle-aged woman in the broken carriage. Their faces changed. The Iron Hand Lady. Misunderstood, that golden eye god carving is not. The second elder quickly explained that at first he didn't know who was in the carriage, but when he saw the middle-aged woman, he had a bad feeling. It's no big deal that this middle-aged beauty can only cultivate in the divine realm, but her Taoist partner is a great friar in Yupu realm, and she is a Sanshio who has reached the middle stage of Yupu realm. No one knows his real name. The friars of the same generation in the spiritual realm call him the Iron Hand Immortal. Tuesday Iron Hand Immortal 2 is usually low-key and extremely protective. He is merciless and will be punished if he moves his hand. This Iron Hand Lady is just the anti-corruption of Iron Hand Immortal 2. If you offend Iron Hand Immortal 2, you may still have a way to live, but if you offend Iron Hand Lady, you will usually die miserably. Since the Iron Hand Immortal 2 did a few things to make the crown angry, the people in the spirit domain seldom offended the Iron Hand Lady anymore. Now, the second elder felt from the Iron Hand Lady's eyes that the other side seemed to have taken the attack of the 5th level Golden Eye Eagle into his own body. How could he not be flustered? However, before he finished his words, he was interrupted by Mrs. Iron Hand. Misunderstanding? Kill them. The Iron Hand Lady's face was covered with frost. She laughed a few times and pointed to the second elder and the 5th elder. What a misunderstanding! At the command of Mrs. Iron Hand, the 4 guards were all in shape. The terrible sword light covered the 3 elders, the 5 elders, and the 4th level Golden Eye statue at the same time. The speed of the 5th level Golden Eye is by no means comparable to that of the ordinary monks in the divine realm. They can't catch up with the 5th level Golden Eye, so they pour all their anger on the 2 men and 1 carving in front of them. The second elder is the later cultivation of Washinjing, the 5th elder is only the middle cultivation of Washinjing, and the 4 guards are all the later cultivation of Washinjing. As soon as they met, the 2 sides decided that although the 2 elders avoided each other's fatal blow, the 4th level Golden Eye statue under him was unlucky and was killed by a guard. On the spot, the carved body was split in 2 and fell to the ground with blood. The 5 elders were not much better. They left the 2 elders in a hurry and fled to the distance. But they were soon chased by a fierce guard. He reluctantly turned back to support the 2 moves, and was cut off by the other side's terrible sword. The 3 elders in charge of the surveillance in the distance saw a sudden conflict here, and they rushed to the front of the 4-level Golden Eye statue under the seat to help fight. They just flew less than 100 feet away, but they saw that your 5 elders were first cut off one arm, and then cut into a pile of meat in the terrible light of the sword. Even Yuan Ing was not spared. On the other side, 2 monks in the later stage of the other side's spirit transforming state are both stopping the 2 elders, and their attack is extremely fierce. There are many dangers between several rounds. The other monk of the other side, however, offered a sword light and killed him in a flash. In this case, only the 3 elders in the middle of Washinjing had lost the courage of the First World War. Suddenly, his feet were a little on the back of the Golden Eye statue, and his whole body turned into a flash of lightning and shot away in the distance. Even the 4-level Golden Eye statue under his seat could not be put into the ring of Spirit Beast, so he wanted to escape. How could the late monk let him escape? His body suddenly floated forward, killed the abandoned 4-step Golden Eye statue with 1 sword, and then stepped on the flying sword. In a flash of light, the whole man had turned into a virtual shadow and chased the 3 elders far away. At the beginning of the fierce battle, the nearby monks fled to the distance. Tian, who uses Insha and Feng Dun skills, also takes this opportunity to float away from the beautiful carriage pulled by deer and beast. He was stunned when he saw that the carriage was broken by the 5-level Golden Eye God carving. The conflict between the 2 sides broke up, the fear of Lingfei sect elders and the terror attack of the 4 monks. He didn't know who was the woman in the animal cart pulled by the deer demon. Although he decided to choose this group of people as the target to frame the friars of Lingfei sect through the light of Yuan Tian Ai, he didn't know that this woman had such a terrible identity. The reason why he chose this group of people was that he only saw that among the group of monks nearby, there were the most monks who could compete with the 3 monks of Lingfei zone, and then he acted in accordance with each other. I just can't imagine that things have evolved to this extent. It seems that these people can kill all the 3 friars of Lingfei zone. By this time, all the 2 Golden Eye statues had been killed by the friars. The life and death of Lingfei zone and the 2 friars were insignificant. Yi Tianqian unconsciously returned to his carriage and began to pay attention to the situation in the sky. Far away in the sky, the invisible Xian Run, under the illumination of Yi Tianyuan's eye, has already picked up a tiny indistinguishable black spot, while another small black spot is slowly approaching Xian Run. It's the 5-level golden eye. By hiding in other people's camp, Yi Tian responds to the hostility of Lingfaizong friars, and then makes up for Lingfaizong and others through the attack of the 5th-level golden eye eagle. The calculation of the blame is very perfect, but it has not yet come to an end. As long as you take back the 5-level golden eye carving and return Xianrun, it will be a great success. There's the golden eagle. When Yi Tianzheng was concerned, the Iron Hand lady suddenly pointed to the sky and yelled to the 3 guards who had just killed the 2 elders of Lingfei sect, "Kill it!" When they heard the words, they nodded a little, and their bodies immediately flashed, turned into 3 escape lights, and flew away to the golden eye statue in the sky. Seeing this situation, Yi Tian is worried. Originally, he didn't want to create any conflict with these unrelated people, but he underestimated the strength of these people. Finally, his 5th-level golden eye eagle became the target of the other party. If the 3 men's thoughts are locked in, even if Xianrun succeeds in putting the golden eye eagle into the ring of spirit beast, he can't escape the pursuit of the other side because he hasn't reached the perfect level of invisibility. At this time, Yi Naivete is a little anxious. Yi Tian, whose eyebrows are slightly wrinkled, suddenly moves in his heart. A 4-stepped shadowless snake appears beside him silently. As soon as the snake appears, it doesn't stay at all. With a bow, it shoots at the deer monster cart. Che! The 2 were not far apart. The speed of the shadowless snake was extremely fast. Its transparent body did not attract people's attention at all. It only took a breath to fly from the beast's car to the belly of a deer demon, and it took a bite at the most lethal part. The deer demon is just a 5-level monster. The demon is not good at fighting against the enemy. In terms of defense, no defense, strength and insufficient strength. The reason why the deer demon is used to control the beast car is that the 2 deer demons are very beautiful and have extraordinary appearance. The deer demon was suddenly attacked. Under the sharp pain, it suddenly hissed a few times and darted forward. The animal car flew forward at any time. Mrs. Ironhand, who was still sitting on the wrecked carriage, suddenly took off and ran to the low altitude, looking around with her cold eyes. The change on this side immediately attracted the attention of the 3 guards who were flying high into the sky. At this time, they could no longer go up to chase the golden eye eagle. They immediately flew down to protect the Iron Hand lady who was obviously attacked. The reason why the 3 of them, together with the companion who went after the 3 elders of Lingfaizong, became the guard of Lady Ironhand in the later period of the apotheosis was that they were killed by the Ironhand Immortal. These 4 people, because they have unintentionally offended Taizhou Xiantu, are forbidden by Taizhou Xiantu and taken as slaves. Their only task is to protect Mrs. Taizhou. If Mrs. Taizhou makes any mistake, they will surely die. Compared with protecting Mrs. Ironhand's safety, it's not worth mentioning to pursue and kill a flat-haired animal that hasn't been transformed successfully. Madam! Madam! The 3 men were very fast, and the flying sword flashed. They had come to the Iron Hand lady's side from the high sky. And the remaining evils of Lingfaizong. The Iron Hand lady glanced at the deer demon with a black belly, and said coldly, "How dare they try to attack my wife with spirit insects? It's our fault that surprised my wife. I'll go to clean up the golden eye statue first, and then wipe out Lingfaizong." One of the friars said with a quick bow. Then he got up again and flew high into the sky, but he just flew out of the distance of tens of feet, but suddenly stopped. At this time, not only did the golden eye god eagle lose its trace in the high altitude visible to the naked eye, but even released his mind. He didn't feel the existence of the golden eye god eagle at all. Strange. The man frowned, hesitated for a moment, turned and flew back to the Iron Hand lady. "Madam, there is a great master of Lingfei sect, please leave here for a while." "Get out of here? Are you all rubbish? What's the big deal of Lingfaizong? What kind of monk can he have listened to that friar such a hand?" Iron Hand madam immediately sternly rebukes. "Ma'am, the 5-level golden eye eagle has disappeared. With his speed, he can't escape from the scope of my divine exploration in this short time. He must have been included in the spirit beast ring. And I really didn't find the man who put away the golden eye statue, which is enough to show that the man can avoid the double exploration of the naked eye and the divine mind, that is to say, he will have a very mysterious reclusive art and a very clever appearance. Once such a dangerous person stealthily attacks, we can't guarantee that we can guard against it. The friar didn't dare to make Mrs. Ironhand angry again, so he explained patiently. It's just exaggeration. My wife has never heard of such a powerful roll of Lingfizone. Now that you have determined that there is such an expert, you can find him out. My wife wants to see what kind of expert he is. The Iron Hand lady didn't care at all, and said with great momentum. The friar is like his 2 peas, smiling, gestures, and a new car appeared again, just like the one before. Ma'am, please get in the car. I'll make a thorough investigation of this matter. He had to suppress the anger in his heart. Instead, he showed great loyalty and assured Mrs. Ironhand. Madam, it seems that the beautiful deer pulling the cart has been poisoned by snake venom, and the location is very strange. Even if she can escape, I'm afraid it will be greatly affected. At this time, a guard who inspected the damaged animal car came to report. Maylulu. My Maylulu. Hearing what the guard said, Mrs. Ironhand was immediately excited. You want to pay for my deer? No, I don't want the deer. I want the black leopard to pull the cart. With these words, a slender jade finger of Mrs. Ironhand, whose eyes are shining, points to the panther cart not far away. I grass, there is no mistake, actually want my panther. In the carriage of the animal car, Tian can't help but feel dissatisfied when he sees this change. He just hopes that the other party will just say it casually, or be persuaded by the 3 guards, and let it go. However, he was not allowed to do so. When he heard that Lady Ironhand said she wanted the panther, one of the friars immediately came to the panther cart. Tian looks at the monk who is getting closer and closer. He takes another look at a place outside the carriage. It looks empty, but with Yuan Tian's eyes, Tian knows that Xianrun is standing there awkwardly. If it wasn't for this monk, Xianrun, who had already put away the 5-level golden-eye statue, would have returned to the beast cart within 3 or 2 breaths, and then entered the carriage with the help of Tian's 5 element beads, and then came out from the carriage, which could completely cover anyone's ears and eyes. However, just at this moment, the friar came, and he wanted his panther. Tian has more than 1,000 5-level monsters. This black leopard monster is just one of the most common ones. Originally, 1 more black leopard and 1 less black leopard are unimportant things. But now it's different. Because Xianrun is here, if someone comes to ask for it, he will be forced to give it to the other party. Then he is sure that his position in Xianrun's heart will be greatly reduced. Maybe he will fall into the altar and never let this person feel awe again. As a result, his future actions will be changed. It's a tiny thing, but it matters a lot. Tian glanced at Xianrun, and his face showed the color of meditation. The friars in the carriage, please leave this car. I've requisitioned this animal car. The friar came near, looked at the panther, and then said to the carriage where Tian was. In the case that Tian could not hide his own breath, the monk in the later stage of the deification naturally sensed that there was a monk in Longmen realm sitting in the carriage. In front of the monks of Washingjing, Longmen realm, a very low realm, can almost be ignored. Not only did he feel the realm of the friars in the carriage, but other friars nearby also felt this situation. Although the driver of an animal cart pulled by a 5th-level monster is not here, it can be analyzed that the driver of the animal cart should only have the cultivation of Yuanying realm. Otherwise, if the cultivation of spirit realm is realized, the animal cart must be a 6th-level monster. A monk in the spirit realm will never lack the 6th-level monster. Maybe in the whole time in spirit realm, only Lady Ironhand, as a monk in the spirit realm, can use the 5th-level monster to pull the cart. Her reason is very simple, that is, she likes it. The strength gap between the 2 sides is so great, and the onlookers can be sure that the friars in the carriage are certainly not very important people. Otherwise, like Lady Ironhand, there will be at least a few spiritual friars around to protect, but there is no one here. Just when everyone thought that under the pressure of Mrs. Ironhand, the friars in the carriage would definitely judge the situation and give up the beast cart. They might even make friends with Mrs. Ironhand because of such a rare opportunity. However, a rather young voice came out of the carriage. "Go away, I don't want to kill today, before I change my mind, get as far as you can." This voice is exactly Yi Tian's original voice, without any cover-up. As soon as this sentence came out, there was silence around. Some of the monks looked at each other and wondered whether the Longmen monk in the animal cart really had some origins, or was he making a bluff here? In the animal car, Yi Tian completely ignores the Iron Hand Lady and the 4 guards of Washington. This angry rebuke sounds extremely arrogant and full of confidence. Just as everyone secretly guessed, the guard who had come to the side of the Black Leopard could not help but stop. He looked at the carriage of the Black Leopard and then looked back at the Iron Hand Lady. Here, the Iron Hand Lady is their absolute master. Whether their prohibition can be lifted by the Iron Hand Immortal Butcher completely depends on the thought of the Iron Hand Lady. Therefore, at this moment, he is very humble. Looking at the Iron Hand Lady, waiting for her decision-making, if he rashly start his own, for the Iron Hand Lady, Iron Hand Immortal TU will certainly not spare him. At least, up to now, the guard can't find out the details of Yi Tian in the carriage, and doesn't know who he will offend. From the other party's arrogant words, he felt that the other party should still have some weight. "What are you looking at? Didn't you hear me? I want the panther. Now I'll add another one. I'll cut off the tongue of the man in the car, castrate him, and kill him." At this time, Mrs. Ironhand's face showed extreme dissatisfaction. She pointed to the leopard cart with her hand and yelled. After getting the instructions from Mrs. Ironhand, the guard had no scruples in his heart. Anyway, even if he offended the wrong person, there was Mrs. Ironhand and the Iron Hand Immortal Butcher behind him. He went straight around the panther, who was pulling the cart, and made for the car behind him. "Xian run, fuck him." In the carriage, Yi Tian's eyebrows wrinkled and his eyes coldly sent Xianrun a message. Boom. Xianrun and so on are Yi Tian's instructions. When the master sends out the angry words, Xianrun knows that he will definitely start this time, so he is ready to send out a thunderbolt at any time. As soon as Yi Tian finished his sentence, a short knife appeared in his hand and stabbed at the guard who had walked close to him. With a bang, the terrible mana burst out, and the guard was caught off guard. He was bombarded by the knife, and his body exploded, turning into 7 or 8 pieces and flying around with the meat. All of a sudden, the onlookers around were shocked. Just like before the Battle of the Great Friars in Yupujing, they retreated one after another. The situation in front of them had already shown that it was impossible to be good at this time, and it was unpredictable to what extent they would develop next. Invisible Man. The Iron Hand Lady saw that a guard of the later stage of the spirit realm fell in front of her in an instant. She couldn't help shrinking her pupils and yelling, "Kill him!" This kind of situation, not only she can see that some invisible friars launched an attack, in fact, as long as she is not blind, she can see that there is no other possibility. The 2 guards around her did not hesitate immediately. They sacrificed a flying sword and cut to the place where the former guard was killed. When the attack started, they immediately locked the nearby area. However, they did not find any invisible person or aura wave. In this case, it shows that the other party's occult art can prevent the exploration of mind, and it is also a very clever magic power. If you don't find the aura fluctuation, it means that the other party hasn't changed his position. Unless the other party's invisibility has reached the level of perfection, even changing his position will not cause the aura fluctuation. The attack of the 2 men was very fierce. Originally, they didn't expect this attack to kill the invisible friars, just because they didn't know how many such invisible friars were there, 1 or more. If we can find out the number of invisible friars, they will be successful this time. Boom! The 2 men's terror attack was shining with a strong sword light in the area of more than 10 feet, and the beast car was cut to pieces as if it were destroyed by the sword light. If it wasn't for Lady Ironhand, if she wanted the panther first, I'm afraid that under such a terrible attack, the beast would be more or less implicated. However, when the light of the sword converged and the chi of the sword dissipated, there was no abnormality within the attack range of the 2 terrible flying swords. Even in the beast cart that had made a clear voice before, there was no human figure. Similarly, there was no corpse that had been killed in the imagination. Strange. When one of the guards saw this situation, his eyes were fixed, his gesture moved, and the flying sword flew back to his hands in a flash. Then his momentum burst out again, and the sword light swept around. Rich combat experience allows him to protect himself when he doesn't know where his opponent is hiding. The other guard, with a flash of body shape, came to the Iron Hand lady's body. With a flying sword in her hand, she looked around and continued to open her mind, observing the aura fluctuations around her. No one around thought that it was an earth-shaking war, but in the end it turned into an Iron Hand lady and a group of them timidly defended. "Madam, the Friar of Lingfizong has been killed." At this time, the bodyguard who pursued the three elders of Lingfizong finally went back to Mrs. Ironhand in a flash. After reporting this, he also released his flying sword and wandered around. The sword was on guard. It was obvious that he had found out what happened here on the way back. "You are a bunch of rubbish, you can't even clean up an invisible friar. What can I do for you?" At this time, all the people in the carriage and the friars who attacked seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. There was no more movement. Only a few friars on Mrs. Ironhand's side were still waiting for the enemy. In this situation, Mrs. Ironhand felt that her face was greatly damaged and yelled fiercely. "The panther that I want is not brought? Bring it?" The only three guards could not help but draw their lips. Did they think that the 5-level monster was a pig? "What do you mean, just bring it? If you want the 5th order panther to pull the cart, you need to subdue the beast first, which is not difficult. But next, we have to erase the mark of the original owner's mind, and then lay down the mark of our own mind, so that we can make the royal envoy at will. Otherwise, it's someone else's stuff after all. The original owner may overturn the car at any time." However, although they knew what was going on inside, the unruly Iron Hand lady had already spoken, but the three guards didn't dare to disobey. The three exchanged glances. The friar who finally came back slowly approached the black leopard, while the other two friars were concentrating on checking the wind and grass around to prevent the previous invisible man from sneaking attack. When the man was still 3 feet away from the panther, which seemed harmless to human beings and animals, suddenly flashed and turned into a black light and rushed south. Its speed is far faster than that of the same rank of human friars. Chase. Seeing the panther running away, Mrs. Ironhand was in the air and gave a sharp drink again. The guard of Washington, who was close to the panther before, immediately ran away and ran after the panther. However, when his body shot suddenly, a terrible sword light suddenly cut in front of his body. This person's body shape is very fast, but the sword light is faster. It moves quickly in a certain position in the middle on both sides. It seems that the person tries his best to hit the terrible sword light. The speed of the two is too fast to describe. As if the sword light just appeared, the friar who chased the panther had not come and made any response before he had hit the sword light. Puff! A clear voice came out, and the sword light stopped everything from the middle of the monk's body, but the sword light seemed to be nihilistic. After the sword light cut, the monk ran after the panther as if he didn't realize it. It wasn't until his body was more than 30 feet away that the friar got into shape. His upper body and lower body separated cleanly and turned into two corpses, spraying blood and falling to the ground. There was silence around. A monk in the later stage of the spiritual realm was killed in silence. Even Yuan Ing couldn't escape. He was cut in half by the other side. The other side didn't see what the person was like. "Trash, he's over there." For a moment, the Iron Hand lady was stunned. Then she pointed to the direction where the panther was escaping. She saw that the panther, who was about to flee, suddenly disappeared. In this case, she didn't know that the 5th-level monster had been put into the spirit beast ring by her master. Chase. The Iron Hand lady has been very disappointed. If she doesn't find the scene today, it will become a big joke in the butt of others' jokes. It's absolutely intolerable for the Iron Hand lady who is very vain. "Master, do you want to kill that girl?" Somewhere in the front, Xianrun, who is invisible, sends a message to Yi Tianshenian and asks. Yi Tianling, who is also performing the art of hidden killing, snorted, "Yi has never disdained to kill women, but if she goes too far, you should not pity Jade." "I understand." Xianrun agrees to change his body shape and position. If Tian doesn't want to remind him of his position, Xianran can't find Tian's position. At this time, Xianran and the previous Xianran have greatly improved in the application of Hermit. There is no other reason, Leaf Day just really can't see past, temporarily instructed Xianran a few words. Otherwise, with Xianran's original accomplishments in reclusion, he may not be able to escape the exploration of those monks in the later stage of the transformation of the divine realm, especially in the process of moving, he will certainly expose his body. During the flight, Mrs. Iron Hands suddenly brightened up. Almost at the same time, a flame also lit up. Tian, who is very experienced, can't help looking at such a situation. This woman is actually sending a message. When Tian was in the carriage before, she had heard someone nearby talking about her identity. Her Taoist partner turned out to be a great friar in Yupujing. There is no doubt that now she sent a message to the great friar in Yupujing named Taishuziantu. And the white light from her body is an extremely valuable defense shield. Her defense ability is amazing. It seems that this woman is not stupid, and she knows how to protect herself. From Tian's experience, you can see at a glance that this kind of defense shield, even if it is attacked by the great monk at the top of the spirit realm, will take a period of time to completely break. Let's go, don't pay attention to this man first. Tian Dao doesn't want to have any more conflicts with other great friars in Yupu realm. He has already killed the other two guards of Huashan realm, which can be regarded as punishment. At the moment, he said to Xianran, and they began to sneak and fly to the south. Mrs. Ironhand seemed to expect that the invisible friar would fly south, with a strong defense shield on her body. At this time, she had no taboo, but also flew straight south. The only two guards around her follow closely and protect them. Seeing that the war situation has actually evolved to this point, the invisible friar seems to have gone south, while the few remaining members of Lady Ironhand also broke through the blockade of Qingyun's sect and flew south. But at this time, Qingyun's sect seems to have lost its momentum, and no one appeared to stop it, and the so-called Eight-Sect Alliance disappeared, as if it had become a place of freedom. The great attraction of Sangming World made some monks urge Dunguan to cross the blockade line and fly to the direction where Sangming World is located. This is often the case. As long as there is a leader, the rest will go smoothly. Soon, more and more friars began to move, and many animal carts started to move. They completely ignored the blockade line that should not exist and fled south one after another. No matter in the high altitude or low altitude, many kinds of shadows started one after another, and a large black shadow quickly moved south. For all this, Tian doesn't care. The heartworm he sent has already sent back the picture of Sangming World. There is no thing that Sangming Order erupted in advance. It's just a scam. Now what Tian is thinking about is to send back the 8 young barbarians first, and then talk about others. While Feiduan, Tian points out Xianran's reclusive skill and corrects his shortcomings one by one. Xianran's reclusive skill is improving rapidly, and Tian even gives some advice on his reclusive skill. All along, Xianran's performance is remarkable, and Tian is satisfied with this person's means and attitude. So after flying away for more than 1,000 miles, Tian said to Xianran in a hurry. They deflected an angle and stopped. At this time, there are some fast monks in the rear who have caught up with each other and are flying by without stopping. Tian and Xianran are already in the middle of those friars who are flying away. At the same time, over Tian and Xianran, there are Lady Taizhou and the only two guards who are in the later stage of Washinjing. They fly in the front and shoot aimlessly at some place in the air from time to time. Naturally, they come back in vain every time. Feeling these situations, Tian starts a smile on his lips, finds a big gap and Xianran falls to the ground. In such a fishy situation, it is undoubtedly the best protection for himself and Xianran. However, as soon as they fell to the ground, it seemed that everything around them was quiet. The original calm sky seemed like a stone in a lake, with slight ripples. Everyone who saw the scene knew that there was a great friar of Yupujing coming, and even who he was. Some people seem to have guessed. The ripples have not yet subsided. Sure enough, out of it came a burly friar, dressed in armor, like a general who had just come back from the battlefield. His body exuded an invisible murderous spirit, and behind him was a broad sword, black as ink. The most remarkable thing is that on his right hand, I was at the wing root of a big bird. When I finished this big move, with my right hand loosened, the big bird folded its wings and stood obediently beside the man. Seeing this big bird, Tian can't help but frown. It's another golden eye. Husband. As soon as the man appeared, the Iron Hand lady moved, her clothes were flying, and she came into his arms with a gust of fragrance. She felt aggrieved and wanted to cry, "My husband, I've been bullied." That kind of child delicate drop, completely did not have before arrogant domineering. "Madam, I already know that I have brought the golden eye statue of Lingfei's own. Next, I will give it to Weifu." The friar patted Mrs. Ironhand on the back and said very gently. The 4th level golden eye god carving was obviously recognized by the Iron Hand Immortal 2. At this time, its wings spread, and it flew around the Iron Hand Immortal 2 and the Iron Hand lady's hands for a circle, then its eyes flashed and looked around. Iron Hand Fairy 2 also put away his tenderness to his wife, and his expression fell to the freezing point in a moment. His cold eyes looked at the many beast carts and friars who didn't leave rashly. His momentum burst out, as if he was going to be a killer at the next moment. The nearby friars were wary of themselves and began to retreat slowly away from the Iron Hand Immortal 2. This man was notorious, especially as Sancho. He didn't have the family to drag him down and didn't have any scruples. Even the 8 families didn't want to easily provoke him. Fortunately, this man didn't lay hands on others at will. His mind was always connected with the 4th level golden eye statue, and his eyes followed the golden eye statue coldly. At a certain moment, the golden eye statue suddenly quacked a few times, its feathers stood up and dived down. The target was the 2 monks on the rocks on the ground. These 2 people are Yi Tian and Xianrun, who have changed their appearance. Almost as the golden eye statue swoops down, the Iron Hand Immortal 2 suddenly gives out a cold hum. With a wave of his hand, a thick cloud comes out and quickly covers Yi Tian and his wife. The black cloud fell to the ground in an instant, making a loud noise, smashing a huge deep pit out of the hard rock mountain. The smoke and dust all around covered people's sight. As soon as the sound of explosion fell and the smoke and dust began to rise, the Iron Hand Fairy 2, however, gave a light sound and took the Iron Hand lady to the edge of the pit. The golden eye statue is also a wing, flying in another direction. Iron Hand Immortal 2 stopped in the middle of the body, looked at the golden eye god carving, and then followed the golden eye god carving again. "My husband, you must vent your anger on me. I didn't kill them just now. I have no face." The Iron Hand lady is led by the Iron Hand Immortal 2, and holds the Iron Hand Immortal 2's waist in one hand, saying coquettishly. Iron Hand Immortal 2 was staring at the ground with bright eyes, and his voice was cold. "These 2 people have some skills, but they can't run away. I know my husband loves my family most." The Iron Hand lady smiles and looks at the ground. "See how long they can be on the ground. Tai-san, go down and hunt." The golden eye statue always glides forward in the low air. The Iron Hand Immortal 2 follows the golden eye statue closely. At one moment, he suddenly drinks. Not far behind, the 2 guards of the later stage of Washinjing fell down suddenly after hearing the words. At last, they almost simultaneously performed their earthly escape and entered the underground. "Xianrun, the 2 men are coming. They must be killed." Thousands of feet underground, Yi Tian and Xianrun stop. Through the observation of Yuantianian, Yi Tian finds that the 4th level golden eye statue is also very powerful. They can still see themselves when they go so far underground, and they are constantly tracking along with the change of their position in the underground. And underground, there are the 2 guards of Washinjing. The golden eye god carving has always been beside the Iron Hand Immortal 2, and Yi Tian has nothing to do with it for the time being. However, Yi Tian absolutely doesn't want to let go of these 2 monks who come to the ground to kill themselves. "Master, it's not easy to kill. If it's one, I'm 100% sure. But if it's a second kill, I can only use Tian Luonet. But it's not so easy to have a monk in the same realm." Xianrun brow slightly wrinkled, a Sichuan word, hesitated to say. Yi Tian shook his head and said, "Tian Luonet is not suitable to be exposed for the time being. It's the mace to deal with the great friar of Yupu realm. You can use Hoi Bao to recognize the Lord as soon as possible." Yi Tian said, and the Hoi palace, together with 3 black Hoi arrows, appeared in his hand. Seeing Hou Yi's bow, Shenron was very happy. He received it and immediately began to make his own mark on it. After more than 10 breaths, Shenron shown Yi Tian nodded. Yi Tian understood and looked at the two monks who were getting closer and closer. He quickly said, "Prepare, listen to my command." Shenron didn't dare to neglect him. He raised the bow of Hou Yi in his hand, and then the arrow of Hou Yi was put on the string. Yi Tian put his finger on the back of the bow and helped Shenron adjust his direction. He began to stare at the two monks, ready to give orders at any time. "Tian and Tian, those two friars are going to attack you with bows and arrows. Deal with them carefully." In the sky, the Iron Hand Immortal 2 got this situation from the consciousness sect of the Golden Eye God carving, and immediately sent out a message to the two monks in the deep underground. "Understand, Master, the bow and arrow is not in our brother's words. As long as the Master can lock the positions of the two people at all times, our brother will kill them to vent his anger for his wife." Tian and Tian look at each other and immediately reply to Tai's Hoshiantu. If they say that the other party uses other means, maybe they will have some scruples. But if they say that they use bows and arrows underground, it's a joke. The resistance of the soil will make it difficult for the arrow to move. It may have been blocked by the thick underground soil before the arrow shot far away, so they didn't take it seriously at all. On the contrary, Shenron, who is not far away, does his best. He stares at the front without blinking. His left arm holding the bow is straight, and his right hand holds the bowstring. On the bowstring is a Hou Yi arrow. His mana is gathered on his arms, waiting for Yi Tian's final command. At a certain moment, Yi Tian's right hand suddenly waved, Shenron's arms forced, Hou Yi's bow slowly opened, and the bigger it opened, but even if Shenron did his best, he just pulled Hou Yi's bow to half open. When he felt that he could no longer pull the bow of Hou Yi, Shenron suddenly released the bowstring. The arrow on the bowstring turned into a black light and quickly penetrated through the soil. Then he shot at Tai, who was fast approaching here. Boom! Although in the underground, the moment Hou Yi's arrow hit the man, it immediately exploded. The powerful destructive power made Tai explode all over his body, turning into countless pieces of meat, splashing everywhere. Even Tai San beside him was also affected, and his injury was not light. At this time, Shenron's mana was exhausted, and even he couldn't hold Hou Yi's bow in his hand, so his arm dropped down. See this scene, Yi Tian shot a move, more than 10,000 wire ants out of the nest, rushed to the injured Iron 3, and in his hand there is a drop of plastic film wrapped liquid, sent to Shenron's mouth. Shame! Feeling the surging mana in his body, Shenron said in a soft voice. With a gesture, he put back Hou Yi's bow, and his half-immortal soldier's flying sword appeared in his hand. He flew to Tai San, which was heavily wrapped up by iron thread ants. Under the influence of Hou Yi's arrow, a grotto with a radius of about 3 feet has been blasted out here. Shenron's attack has not been affected by any soil at all. A sword stabs out, Yi Tian's mind moves, the iron line ant where the flying sword stabs immediately coaxes to fly away, the next moment, poof, this sword has stabbed into Tiesan's chest. All this happened in the light of lightning. Tiesan's body was hit by the sword, and the power to protect his body was suddenly released. The Tian ant on his body was even more rampant. However, after 3 or 5 breaths, his whole body was bloody and his throat was broken. Even the broken baby was bitten to pieces by the wire ant. Ready to evacuate. All of a sudden, Yi Tian gave a big drink, and his mind moved. Many of them turned into a thick black cloud and were sent into the ring of Spirit Beast. Shenron also put out his hand to move the arrow that killed Tie. Almost at the same time, a small moving sign in Yi Tian's hand is activated, and a light gate appears in the earth underground. Yi Tian urges the 5 element beads with one hand, and pulls Shenron with the other hand. They both enter the gate of light and disappear from the original place. As soon as their bodies disappeared, next to the light gate produced by the little transmission sign, the figure of Tai's Hoshiantu suddenly appeared here. His face was livid and he looked at the light gate slowly disappearing, releasing his mind. My grass! In the sky above, Yi Tian pulls Shenron to complete the transmission. When he sees the situation in front of him, he can't help but give a very unexpected sigh. Not far from him, there was a middle-aged beautiful woman with a cold face. Beside the beautiful woman, there was a golden eye statue. Yes, he was transported to the air above the ground. The transmission distance this time is just the distance from the ground to the ground. This is the first time that Tian tries to activate the small shift symbol underground. As for the transmission distance, he has no basis at all. It was too late for him to escape to the earth just because he saw that the Iron Hand Immortal 2 had already entered the ground. But who would have thought that this transmission would be such a result? Just as he was about to inspire another little moving rune, he saw the 4-step golden eye statue, which was fierce and constantly chirping. However, he suddenly changed his mind and sent out a message to Shenrun in a hurry. Hearing Yi Tian's command, Shenrun's figure flashed and turned into a virtual shadow. The flying sword in his hand turned into a sword flower of 3 feet in size, and covered the golden eye god carving in it. The golden eye eagle felt the horror of the sword light and wanted to fly away with a cry. But where was the sword light of the monk in the spirit realm? There was a splash of flesh and blood. The 4th-level golden eye eagle had been cut to pieces by Shenrun. At this time, Yi Tian, who is also following up, has already inspired a small moving sign. As soon as the light gate appears, Yi Tian has already pulled Shenrun into the light gate, as before, and then they disappear from the light gate together. When the light door slowly dissipated, the angry Iron Hand Immortal 2 appeared next to the fuzzy light door again. Husband. At this time, because the golden eye statue was suddenly attacked, she quickly avoided the Iron Hand lady in the distance and came to the Iron Hand Immortal 2's side in a flash. Well, they can't run. The iron-handed Immortal 2 glanced at the corpse of the golden eye god carving that had fallen to the ground. With a cold hum, he let go of his mind and began to explore everywhere. Bit by bit, the Iron Hand Immortal 2 did not move, but his face became more and more ugly. Above a certain altitude, Yi Tian and Shenrun suddenly appear from a slight ripple wave. At the first time, Yi Tian observes the surrounding situation. This is the sky above a mountain range. In the distance, many animal carts and friars are flying towards this side. There are some animal carts, and Yi Tian still feels familiar with them. Yes, he was blocked outside the blockade line before. Yi Tian had seen these animal carts, but Monk Xingyun's zone didn't stop them. These people broke through the blockade line and rushed to Tsangming. I didn't expect to meet them here. Yi Tian roughly calculated according to their speed and flight time. The distance from the blockade line is only about 5,000 li. It seems that the transmission distance this time is a little short. Is it the reason that he and Shenrun are transmitted at the same time? When Yi Tian is analyzing, Shenrun's voice suddenly rings in his ear, Master, no, they are coming at us. How can we deal with it? Smell speech, Yi Tian turns ahead to see, as expected see those animal car and friars suddenly speed up, fly to this side to escape. Even have 7 or 8 friars' speed increase range is very obvious, 1 or 2 breath time is already cast off before with them to keep pace with friars. Don't panic. Follow me. Yi Tian said at a pull Shenrun, 2 people's body rapid decline, ready to escape at any time. Whoosh. 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 They had just landed more than 10 feet away from each other. The light did not change its direction. They flew over the sky above them. No one paid any attention to them or even looked at them. Don't move, Shenrun, let go of your mind and see what's going on ahead? Yi Tian looks at the direction of those people's flight and says to Shenrun. Just before, he released his mind, but did not find anything. Within the scope of the mind, everything was calm. However, the scope of his mind is now about 3,000 li, and his failure to find out does not mean that nothing has happened. Yi Tian is very curious. What makes these friars fly away without any scruples? 'Cause oneself almost think they are to arrest oneself and Shenrun. At this time, Shenrun heard Yi Tian's command and immediately released his mind. His mind covered at least 8,000 li, which was far beyond Yi Tian's ability. Master, it should be Tsangming's order with the release of Shenyan, Shenrun suddenly exclaimed when he observed a scene through Shenyan. What kind of situation? Above the sky, above the position of Yi Tian and Shenrun, many friars rushed to the south one after another. Yi Tian had a look at this almost crazy scene and asked with a flash of light in his eyes. It's a big land of bones. It's thousands of miles around, or even bigger. It's like a sea of bones. There's white light in the middle of the area, and some monks are approaching that area. Xianrun's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he had seen it with the naked eye. In this way, it should be just like the Tsangming order erupted in the Tsangming world. From the time of the eruption to the opening of the Tsangming world, all the friars who gathered Yuanying or reached the 5th level and the monsters with Yuanshan and the demon pill would be attacked inexplicably. You hide Yuanying cleverly by using the art of spirit subduing, and no one can see through it. But after all, you have Yuanying, so don't go in and take risks. Tsangming order erupted ahead of time. It's very likely that Tsangming world will open ahead of time. Let me go in alone and see what's going on. Yi Tian looks at the numerous animal carts and friars swarming away, pondering and saying, since the master has said that, I'm sure I'll keep this old life and wait for many masters to serve me in the future. It's a matter of his own life. Xianrun naturally won't try to be brave at this time, and there are also statements about this in his memory from Mu Dongsheng. Xianrun, release the golden eye statue and fly south. Just when Xianrun is ready to wait for Yi Tian to take him underground, and then release the cave to take him in, Yi Tian suddenly says in a changed voice. Xianrun hears the words. Without any delay, the 6th level golden eye statue immediately appears beside them. Their bodies flash at the same time, and they have fallen on the back of the statue. Then the 6th level golden eye statue flies up and shoots south. They have so many golden eyes. At this time, Xianrun already knows the reason why Yi Tian is anxious to leave here. He has already found more than a dozen monks with a golden eye statue flying here. Under the eyes of the golden eye, Yi Tian knows that he can't escape. Instead of trying to escape when he is found by the golden eye, he'd better grasp the opportunity and get rid of them in advance. Seeing that the 6th level golden eye god carving appeared out of thin air and flew away quickly, more than a dozen monks who had originally been with the 4th level golden eye god carving abandoned the 4th level golden eye god carving and pursued the 6th level golden eye god carving. However, the speed of the 6th level golden eye god carving is too fast. The distance between those people and the golden eye god carving gradually widens until they are lost. At this time, Yi Genius took a long breath, but the next moment, he saw the scene he didn't want to see, and his heart sank. Master, what shall we do? Put away the golden eye at the same time, Xianrun also found the most headache for him. At this time, there was a great friar in Yupujing who appeared from the ripples in the sky. This is not the most lethal. The most lethal is that this person is holding the 4th level golden eye god carving that Yi Tian saw before. This man is not an iron hand immortal butcher, nor is he a great friar of Yupujing and Qingyun sect, let alone the 2 great friars of Tai sect. The memory of Yi Tian's soul searching is about this person's appearance. If he remembers it well, he should be from Zhenyang Palace. This man looks middle-aged. He is dressed in linen. His face is murderous and his eyes are cold. Yi Tian recognizes that he is Shin Tianfeng, the first ancestor of Zhenyang Palace. As soon as he appeared in the sky, the cold light in his eyes flashed towards the 6th level golden eye statue. With a wave of his gesture, a strange blue light flashed at the golden eye statue. Hide at the same time as Yi Tian reminds Xianrun, he is aware of the danger. His mind moves, and the 6th level golden eye statue instantly deflects an angle. The blue light can wipe the neck of the 6th level golden eye statue, and the golden eye statue's feathers are knocked off by the blue light, flying disorderly in the air. Fortunately, the speed of the golden eye god carving is fast enough, otherwise it may be hit by the blue light, and the result can be imagined. Close the carving. Yi Tian's eyes coagulated and said quickly that the blow just now was extremely dangerous. If Jingwang's goal was to face Yi Tian, I'm afraid that he was not sure that he could avoid the blow without using his heavenly wings. But when the house leaks, it rains at night. When Yi Tian gang wants Xianrun to use Tian Luo net against Shin Tianfeng, ripples appear again in the sky. From inside came the Iron Hand Fairy 2 and the Iron Hand Lady. No matter how powerful the Tian Luo net is, the Xianrun emissary has been very reluctant for a great friar in Yupu realm. Whether it can work or not is still unknown. At this time, another great friar in Yupu realm appears, and Yi Tian no longer has the idea to fight with each other. At the end of a sentence, Yi Tian's gesture moves continuously, his body shape changes quickly, 5 small moving signs are activated at the same time, and 2 pairs of heavenly wings appear on his back. Poof! Poof! As soon as the 5 ripples emerge, Iron Hand Immortal 2 and Shen Tianfang tacitly pop up 1 magic power to hit the 5 ripples, and each magic power bursts out with terrifying power. Although they play it casually, they have already sent out 70% of their power. If Yi Tian and Xianrun want to send it out from the 5 light gates, they will surely be attacked by terror. In such a critical moment, Yi Tian would not easily take himself as the target of the 2 great friars in Yupu. He spent 5 small moving runes, but he only shot for his own cover. The other 2 great friars of Yupu Kingdom could see the golden eye statue, but could not see himself. If you lock your position through the 4th level golden eye god carving, it will certainly take a time difference. Although the time is very short, it is also a time difference after all. What Yi Tian uses is this time difference. At this time, when the light gate produced by the 5 small moving runes was attacked by 2 great monks in Yupu realm, he pulled up the Xianrun of the golden eye god carving, and the 2 pairs of heavenly wings behind him gave their best, and their bodies suddenly left the place. When he reappeared, he had reached the horizon of the south, and the 2 great friars in Yupu were no longer within the visual range of the naked eye. However, Yi Tian doesn't dare to neglect. He knows that with the power of the great friar in Yupu realm, he can lock himself through the golden eye carving, and it's only 3 or 2 seconds for him to move in a flash. As soon as he finished a small move brought by Tian Linji, a small move symbol in his hand was activated again. With the appearance of aura ripples, Yi Tian once again pulls Xianrun. Before Iron Hand Xiantu and Shen Tianfang come here, they have disappeared from the light gate. From small move state in steady body shape, Leaf Day of Xianrun 2 people can't help but stay. In the north, a group of friars are frantically flying south. The current few people are the people they saw after the last small move. Behind them, many figures are also flying to their own side. It's in front of them again. Yi Tian doesn't know whether to be happy or sad. After all, he was sent to the south, not the north or the rest of the way, which is unfortunate. But what made him feel a little hard to accept was that the transmission distance was obviously much closer than before. How long did these monks fly just now? How far can we fly with so little time? Master, take me into the cave. Now I'd become a burden to you. 2 people just to show body shape. Xianrun see this situation, this scene, quick say. Good. I'll find a way to get out of danger if I want to live and practice in the cave. Yi Tian gesture move, a magic weapon cave out of thin air, and his mouth is also fast said. Take care, master. Xianrun said the body shape has already disappeared from the leaf day in front of eyes. Yi Tian didn't waste any time. He moved his finger and put away the cave. Then he disappeared. Originally, Xianrun felt that because he participated in the transmission of the small moving symbol, which affected the transmission speed, he took the initiative to enter the cave. However, Xianrun is not around, but Yi Tian has more confidence to escape. Although Xianrun's realm is far higher than Yi Tian's, his ability to escape is far worse than Yi Tian's. From a certain point of view, Xianrun at this time has indeed become a burden to Yi Tian. When Yi Tian disappeared, a group of the fastest flying friars and animal carts were flying forward with the strong sound of the wind. Ah! A woman's cry came from the cart pulled by a 6-step tiger. What's the matter, Cher? In front of the cart, Duan Jian, the leader of Duanjian Villa, was driving the tiger. Hearing the voice in the carriage, he asked in a hurry. No, nothing. I had a nightmare in the carriage. Duan Feishue found an excuse to be perfunctory. In his opposite, his standing has shown the body shape of Yi Tian. Yi Tian's disappearance is precisely because he inspired Wuxingzu to enter the fleeing beast car. Because the car is not very spacious, and the beast car is flying at high speed, Yi Tian suddenly enters the car, so he collides with Duan Feishue in the car. Duan Daoyu, I'm Yi Tian. If Yi Tian didn't send a message to Duan Feishue in time, report his identity, and show his true colors for the first time, I'm afraid that Duan Feishue might disturb more people at the next moment. After hearing Duan Feishue say so, Duan Jian has no doubt. This animal car also has a prohibition system to prevent divine exploration. He doesn't know what happened in the car. He can tell from Duan Feishua's tone that there is no danger. Or is it really just a nightmare? Therefore, Duan Jian didn't care too much. Yi Daoyu, we have heard that you have been pursued by many powerful forces. We have been looking for you all the way, but we have never seen you. I thought that if I had a chance to meet Yi Daoyu, I could help you. The ancestor of the villa also came here, but I don't know where he is now. In the trunk, Duan Feishua looks at Yi Tian with a crimson face. The message is that she has done something wrong in this situation. It seems that there is a deer jumping in her heart. Feeling the speed of the animal car, Yi Tian said, the kindness of the Duan family, Yi Mao knows. Whether you are looking for Yi to really save Yi or ask Yi to lift the ban of Tai Dan cutting method for Duan Daoyu, you will express his gratitude when you enter your animal cart this time. This is the elixir refined for Duan Daoyu to lift the ban of Dan cutting. You can take it after Yi leaves. Otherwise, if you take this pill to lift the ban, there will be a lot of noise. Don't let Ye's affairs interfere with the Broken Sword Villa. After all, Ye's enemies are among the 8 sects, and the weakest one is the Sancho Iron Hand Immortal Butcher. Duan Feishua looks at the crystal-clear elixir in Yi Tian's hand and throws a grateful glance. He gently pinches the elixir and says, to tell you the truth, Yi Daoyu, our main purpose is to invite you to refine the antidote. After Yi Daoyu left, the ancestors of the Duan family once looked for an opportunity to capture a disciple of Tai's sect. After searching his soul, they learned that Schwarzban was really Tai's method of cutting pills. But that disciple's status is not high. He only knows that Tai's sect has such prohibition, but he doesn't know how to lift it. When Jiazu searched for his soul, he startled the Taiman's elder brother Gu, who was almost found by the other party. Therefore, for the sake of the safety of Duanjian Villa, Jiazu decided not to touch Taiman's disciples for the time being. I wanted to ask Yi Daoyu to refine pills for Schwer, which was the idea at that time. But then the situation changed. Yi Daoyu did several things, which led to the encirclement and killing of various forces. After hearing this news, we really want to help Yi Daoyu. After all, Schwer was able to escape from the ghost world safely because of Yi Daoyu. At the beginning, we were wary of Yi Daoyu. We didn't believe Yi Daoyu so much. Here, Schwer apologizes to you. Yi Tianwen waved his hand, it's all in the past, so don't mention it anymore. Yi had many enemies this time, and they were all very powerful characters, and there were not a few big friars in Yupu realm. This time, I want to enter the Tsongming world. When the Tsongming order erupted, it was until the Tsongming world was closed. In the middle of this time, the high-level friars were unable to enter. I want to go there to escape for a while, and then try to escape. So, needless to say, we should be able to get to Tsongming Kingdom soon at the present speed. No one should talk about Ye's presence here, so as not to bring unnecessary trouble to Duanjian Villa. After a while, I will leave the beast cart. I understand. Yi Daoyu must be careful. Although the monks above Yuanying can't enter the Tsongming Kingdom, many of the 8 sects are gifted in Jindan Kingdom. Some of them have killed Yuanying, although they haven't gathered Yuanying. I heard from my ancestors that when Tsongming Kingdom was opened this time, all the sects had been preparing for it for many years. They were determined to get Tsangming orders and the things in Tsangming Kingdom. Yi Daoyu still focused on his own safety. Don't think about the treasures in Tsangming Kingdom. If you have a chance, it's the right way to get away as soon as possible. Duan Feishua nodded slightly, then took a look at Yi Tian, bit her lip, and gently turned to the first tone. Listen to all the friars. All the people in the animal cart come out immediately. If anyone disobeys the order, there will be no amnesty. 2 people's words just say here, suddenly the beast suddenly decelerate, in the sky spread a voice. The huge inertia makes Yi Tian and Duan Feishua bump into each other. Thanks to Yi Tian's quick reaction, he helps Duan Feishua's shoulder with his hand to avoid a collision. But Rao is so, Duan Feishua's face is first surprised, and then Hongxia climb up the cheek, very coy look. Yi Tian is not in the mood to pay attention to the little thoughts of his daughter's family now. He puts his finger gently between his lips and signals Duan Feishua to keep quiet. In a moment, he could see clearly the situation outside. In front of the cart are two great friars in Yupu realm. One is Iron Hand Immortal 2, the other is Shen Tianfang of Zhengyang Palace. When Yi Tian was observing, ripples appeared again in the far distance of the sky, which stopped the friars in that part of the sky. And next to Shen Tianfang, the fourth-level golden eye statue is peering around. On the back of the golden eye statue, there are four monks who are not looking around like the golden eye statue. They are mainly responsible for the area around the golden eye statue. It seems that they are afraid that the golden eye statue will be attacked and protected on their back. Duan Feishue can't see the situation outside, but she can feel the severe situation in the sky. She looks out of the car and looks at Yi Tian, with an anxious look on her face. At this time, Yi Tian's figure and appearance suddenly changed into a young monk with a dark face. At that time, when Yi Tian brought Xianrun into the magic cave, he thought that it was not far away from Tsangming Kingdom. If he used the small moving symbol again, he didn't know where it would be sent. He managed to get close to Tsangming Kingdom, so he would not give up Tsangming Kingdom. As for the future, it's a big deal to urge Xiao Diaofu to leave after Tsangming Kingdom is closed. He has always been seeking wealth and danger. In the last life, Yi Tianhua did a lot of things to get Chestnut, which made him reach the Jade Pu realm in only 200 years. If we only rely on the resources of Qingming, I'm afraid he doesn't have such speed. At this time, seeing Duan Feishue's eyes, Yi Tian can't help pondering. If he avoids the pursuit of the Great Friar in Yupu realm, he still has a chance now, but how can he not implicate the Broken Sword Villa? After all, Yi Tian looks at what Duan Feishue said and knows that this woman really didn't lie. After she entered the animal car, she always cooperated with her. Yi Tian, who uses Huarong technique, can't help thinking about it secretly. From the previous situation, as long as the four-level golden eye carving does not have the power to see through the transformation, it can only see through all kinds of obstacles and find the existence of invisibility. I can only hide from the flat-haired animal when I use Huarong technique now, but once I get out of the car, this technique can't hide from the eyes of the Great Friar of Yupu. At this time, in front of the Great Friars of Yupu realm, they still use the technique of transfiguration, so their identity doesn't need too much evidence, and has been exposed. After all, if it wasn't related to the person the other side was chasing, no one would use the technique at this time. Outside the carriage, some of the friars in the animal carriage walked out of the carriage according to the orders of the Great Friar of Yupu Kingdom. Then the animal carriage was checked by the Golden Eye God carving and put away by the owner. After the inspection, the friars can move freely, and the Great Friars of Yupujing no longer interfere. Although the owners of the carts were very dissatisfied with being forced to do something they didn't want to do, they all dared to be angry in front of the Great Friars of Yupujing who had absolute strength. Seems very helpless, lost dignity, saved his life, perhaps this has the best outcome. On the shaft of the tiger cart, Duanjian had the same idea. After all, Duanjian Mountain Villa is a big force in Taiman's spiritual realm. Under the strong influence of the eight sects, it always swallowed up. If the friars here have other identities, it would be shameful for them to be intimidated as the leader of Duanjian Villa. When Duan Jianqin's face is blue and blue, Shen Tianfang, the ancestor of Zhengyang Palace, finally looks down on him after searching a beast car in front of him. Master Duan, someone has violated the ban of the 8 leagues this time. The leagues treat each other equally. All animal carts need to be inspected, and Duanjian Villa is no exception. It's not only Broken Sword Villa, but also the beast chariots of the 8 leagues. So I'd like to ask Master Duan to cooperate with me. Duanjian meets Shen Tianfang's eyes. Although he is facing a great monk in Yupu, there is a chill in his eyes. It was Shen Tianfang who took the friar of Zhengyang Palace to Duanjian Villa and forced him to enter Tsangming Kingdom to fight for the entry card of Tsangming Order. At present, although this population speaks well, it really doesn't pay attention to the Broken Sword Villa. What's the matter? Do you want to search even me? Do you really think that there is no great friar in Yupujing in Duanjian Villa? Duan Jiangang wanted to say something. When Duan Jiangang wanted to save face for Duanjian Villa, the door of the carriage suddenly opened. Duan's ancestors came out from the inside and spoke in a cold voice. Mr. Duan? Why are you here? Shen Tianfang was stunned when he saw that Duan Laodwei appeared from the car. Then he showed a grim smile at the corner of his mouth. I'm really Duan Laodwei. I didn't expect that he was a fake. I don't want to beat you back. With these words, his figure moved, and he came to the ancestor of Duan family. Swear, no mischief. At this time, Duan Jian yelled, his figure moved, and a flying sword flew out like lightning. Together with him, he stood in front of Duan's ancestors. At this time, the old ancestor of Duan family suddenly stepped back 2 steps and changed into Duan Feishue. As soon as she regained her true colors, Duan Feishue said in a voice, Dad, when did the Duan family come to such a state of cowardice that Shuer changed her father's appearance to attract others? The old ancestor of the Duan family has no face at all? As soon as he said this, Duan Jian was stunned. Even Shen Tianfang, the founder of Zhengyang Palace, was also stunned. Then he waved his hand and said, check. Immediately, 2 monks of Zhengyang Palace approached the carriage of the animal cart carefully, looked inside, then backed back and shook their heads at Shen Tianfang. But at this time, the 4th-level golden eye statue nearby suddenly calls out. Shen Tianfang communicates with the golden eye statue for a moment, and his face turns blue. Then his voice was full of ice and cold and asked, Master Duan, do you want to fight against the 8 leagues? There was a man in your daughter's car before. Where is he now? Come quickly from the facts. Shen Tianfang, is it something you don't even know about? You ask the monk of Washinjing? Do you really think that Duanjian will dare not die with you? The net of Zhengyang Palace fish is broken as like as 2 peas appeared in the sky, a sudden appearance of a ripple appeared in the sky. Mr. Duan, it's a little hard to hear. It's the meaning of the 8-sex alliance, not just Zhengyang Palace. Does Duanjian will dare to fight against the 8 sects at the same time? Do you dare to fight against all the Yupujing friars of the 8 sects at the same time? Shen Tianfang's eyes are wide open, and his mind is open. He identifies the real person and the fake one. After he is sure that it is Duan's father himself, he says with a smile. He is a friar in the middle of Yupu realm, but the ancestor of Duan family is only in the early stage of Yupu realm, which is at most half of the middle stage. He has been trapped in the early stage of Yupu realm for a long time and can't break through the barriers, and he can't break through to the middle stage. Moreover, I'm afraid it's not easy to break through in the future. The only thing that the founder of Zhengyang Palace is afraid of is that he is a great monk of Yupujing. Once he gets upset, he can still bring great losses to Zhengyang Palace by attacking ordinary disciples of Zhengyang Palace. If they fight each other, Shen Tianfang may not be able to kill Duan Laozu, but he can fight him. What 8 clans alliance? Don't bully these friars in the name of 8 sections. Maybe there's a news you don't know? Taemin fought with the great friar of Qingyun sect, and the great friar of Yupujing of the 2 sects were both defeated. There are many great monks of Yupu kingdom following and watching this event. Taemin and Qingyun sect are already in hot water. What are you talking about here? That's not to say. It's okay to bully others, even to the head of Duanjian Villa? Duan said with a sneer. Well, Mr. Duan, I really don't know what you said, but from the beginning, the business of Sangming Kingdom was the rules jointly formulated by the 8 sects, and they jointly maintained the rules. Even if there is any conflict between Taemin and Qingyun sect, the 8 major leagues have been formed before, and the rules have also been formulated before. Because which 2 of them have problems, the rules already formulated will not count, and the 8 major sect alliance will collapse? Shen Tianfang snorted coldly and said with a strong voice. Duan's face became more ugly. I don't care about your rules, but I can't insist that there are others in Duan's carriage. Shuer is her daughter's family. She is innocent. What evidence do you have when you say there are others in her carriage? If not, don't say some abrupt words that ruin my family's reputation. Shen Tianfang's face turns pale when he hears Duan's words. He obviously feels that Duan is changing his concept. He searches the invisible Yi Tian. How can he be related to Duan Feishue's innocence? Gaga. When he wanted to suppress Duan Leagui in his momentum and search for Duan Feishue's soul, suddenly the 4th-level golden eye statue suddenly gave out a sound of calling. Over there. Shen Tianfang suddenly turned around, pointed to the south, ignored Duan's ancestors, grasped the wing root of the 4th-level golden eye god carving, and disappeared from the original place. Tens of miles away, When seeing the situation here, Taizhou Shintu also grabbed Mrs. Taizhou to perform the big move and followed Tian away.